Chapter 1839. Su Fang and Count Chong waited outside the valley for 3 months. More and more people came. They only lacked one more person to reach 20. A young man and a young woman were sent over by the spatial array of the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce. You trash, you didn't die? Mo Fenghua, you're still alive. When the young man and woman saw Su Fang, they cried out in surprise at the same time. The woman's appearance was extremely beautiful. However, she was cold and arrogant, as if she was 1,000 miles away from others. She was tall and slightly thin. She had a bony beauty. The young man was tall and had an extraordinarily handsome face. He exuded a masculine beauty. The man and woman's auras were empty. Their cultivation had reached the height of the heavenly deity realm. The man was a 6th firmament heavenly deity, while the woman had the strength of a 3rd firmament heavenly deity. When he saw this man and woman, Su Fang felt an extremely strong sense of resentment and humiliation rise within Mo Fenghua's soul that he had already fused with. Xia Yunji. Fan Su. Xia Yunji was Mo Fenghua's fiancée who had been engaged to him since childhood. Her identity was also extraordinary. Her grandfather was the leader of the Kuan Su divine sect. At the same time, he was also the realm lord of the Kuan Su divine realm, esteemed Kuan Su. As for the young man Fan Su, although he was only a branch disciple of the cloudy divine realm's Sanskrit, his cultivation talent was peerless. Currently, he was a junior that the cloudy divine realm's Sanskrit focused on nurturing. He had the identity of the Sanskrit young master. Mo Fenghua's grandfather, Xianlingzi, had a close relationship with Xia Yunji's grandfather, esteemed Kuan Su. They were engaged when Mo Fenghua and Xia Yunji were young. Who knew that after growing up, regardless of appearance or talent, Xia Yunji would be incomparably stunning. As for Mo Fenghua, because he lost his father when he was young, he was overly spoiled by Xianlingzi. He became an ignorant and incompetent good-for-nothing. With Xia Yunji's status and talent, she naturally wouldn't take a liking to an idiot like Mo Fenghua. As a result, a red apricot secretly had an affair with the Sanskrit son, Fan Su, and flirted with each other. This time, Mo Fenghua somehow found out that Xia Yunji had come to the cloudy turbid divine world and followed Xia Yunji to the Sanskrit divine world. In the end, not only was she beaten up by Fan Su, she was also set up by Fan Su and almost died in the belly of a brothel girl. Unexpectedly, enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. If you adulterous couple don't die, how could I, Mo Fenghua, die so easily? Su Fang said coldly. Affected by Mo Fenghua's resentment, Su Fang's heart was also filled with resentment. With the current strength of Su Fang's origin spirit, it was countless times stronger than Mo Fenghua's. Naturally, he could easily wipe away Mo Fenghua's remaining resentment. However, he didn't do so. Su Fang's strong response surprised Uncle Chong, Xia Yunji, and Fan Su. In their impression, although Mo Fenghua was arrogant, he was actually a coward who bullied the weak and feared the strong. Last time, when he was beaten up by Fan Su in Sanskrit, he even knelt in front of Fan Su and begged for mercy in front of everyone. Only then was he let go. They didn't expect him to be so strong at this time. This stunned everyone. Jiang Su sneered and said, "You trash, did you forget how you knelt in front of my feet and licked my shoes that day? Now that you have an expert by your side, you dare to be so arrogant in front of this young master? This young master knows when to yield and when to stand tall. Otherwise, wouldn't I have been beaten to death by you in front of everyone? Jiang Su, remember this young master will definitely repay the humiliation you gave this young master tenfold in the future. I will make you kneel in front of everyone and lick my shoes," Su Fang said arrogantly and shamelessly. It was very similar to Mo Fenghua's usual style of doing things. Fan Su's eyes exuded cold killing intent. "You're just a disgusting bug. Do you really think you're a green onion? In the future, stay away from Yunji. If you appear beside her like a toad again, This young master has countless methods to make you wish you were dead. Yunji? You call her so intimately. Su Fang coldly glanced at Xia Yunji's body. His gaze paused for a moment on her chest. Just as Mo Fenghua remembered, Xia Yunji's woman's assets weren't big, but they were still a bit bigger than an egg. Xia Yunji recalled the past when Mo Fenghua attacked her chest. Immediately, she was embarrassed and angry. A layer of frost appeared on her face. Her eyes also seemed to be frozen, faintly containing killing intent. Su Fang mocked and ridiculed. This young master has used old goods, but young Master Fan Su still treats them like treasures. Young Master Fan Su, do you like old goods? This young master has used many girls in the God Kuan Su realm. They are much prettier than this one. Do you want to give them all to young Master Fan Su? Trash, you're courting death. Mo Fenghua, I'll kill you. Fan Su and Xia Yunji roared at the same time. Like enraged ferocious beasts, they pounced towards Su Fang. Count Chong flashed in front of Su Fang and released a majestic and heavy aura, forcing Fan Su and Xia Yunji back. Although Fan Su was the young master of Sanskrit, he didn't dare to kill Mo Fenghua in front of everyone. After all, Mo Fenghua's grandfather was a heaven-surpassing god expert. He also had a close relationship with Kuan Su. If he really killed Mo Fenghua, it would cause a dispute between the two god realms. He couldn't bear the consequences. Moreover, Mo Fenghua had a great expert like Count Chong by her side. Fan Su couldn't kill her even if he wanted to. Mo Fenghua, I'll let you have your way for now. One day, this young master will cut off your tongue. Yunji, let's go back. Fan Su grabbed Xia Yunji's hand and flew into the sky. In the sky, Xia Yunji glanced back at Su Fang. Her cold killing intent was obvious. This adulterous couple. Su Fang snorted in his heart. Then, he said to Mo Fenghua, you died in such a cowardly manner. Since I've taken over your body, and formed a karmic fate with you, one day, I'll take care of the humiliation you left behind and your enemies. You can rest in peace. After saying this, the resentment in his heart gradually dissipated. It didn't disappear, but hid in his consciousness. Young master, you've thoroughly offended Fan Su and Xia Yunji this time. When it's time to endure, you still have to endure. Count Chong couldn't help but advise. Su Fang said indifferently, I've already been cuckolded. If I continue to endure, I'll really become a turtle. 3 days later, Tongbao Chamber of Commerce finally gathered 20 people and entered the Stargate together. Su Fang felt a change in spacetime. Other than that, there was nothing abnormal. Then, he was swept away by a spatial power and appeared on a huge object floating in the nebula. Young master, let's go home. Count Chong didn't say anything. He released a divine power that enveloped Su Fang, and they passed through the nebula. In the galaxy, an incomparably huge object appeared in front of Su Fang. This object was actually a huge mountain range that stretched for millions of miles. The highest point was tens of thousands of miles high. It was even bigger than a planet. The Kunwa mountain that Su Fang had seen before was already considered a huge mountain. However, compared to this object, it paled in comparison. It wasn't even worth mentioning. Outside the mountain range, there was a layer of earthy yellow world barrier, which made the object look even more majestic and heavy. This is Kuan Su's realm of the gods? Only in the realm of the gods can such a magnificent sight be seen. Su Fang was shocked. The voice of Luo Zai's primordial spirit came from within his body. The objects and stars of the small and large worlds are almost all formed by the power of nature. Only the ethereal spiritual master once used the dharma of all things to create a planet. As for the various objects and stars of the various worlds, almost all of them were created in the galaxy by people with supreme divine abilities. To be able to create such a huge object, how powerful must one be? You will know in the future. In the various worlds, there are some powerful giants who specialize in creating objects and stars and selling them to the gods as territories. If one has the money and enough power, they can even buy a realm of the gods. Su Fang's heart was filled with disbelief, and he had a deeper understanding of the realm of the gods. Count Chong brought Su Fang through the world barrier, entered the object, and then flew towards the mountain peak. Su Fang originally planned to completely devour Mo Fenghua's body and restore his original appearance as soon as he left the cloudy realm of the gods and got rid of Xinjia Tianjuan's pursuit. Then, he would find a realm of the gods, fuse with the godhead, cross the primal chaos realm of the gods, and think of ways to increase his strength. Once he had a certain level of strength, he would think of ways to find Fairy Xuanxin and Bai Ling. Who knew that after entering the Kuan Su realm of the gods, Count Chong would not leave Su Fang's side at all, as if he was afraid that Su Fang would escape. Clearly, that young Master Mo often used to run away. Just as Su Fang was racking his brains to think of a way to escape, Luo said, "You've really dug yourself into a dead end. The Kuan Su Divine Sect is the best place to stay. Why don't you choose to cultivate in the Kuan Su Divine Sect instead of trying to escape?" Su Fang was startled. "You're saying that you want me to continue to stay in the Kuan Su Divine Sect as Mo Fenghua? This brat is full of trouble, and he's a playboy with a notorious reputation. How can I cultivate in peace with such an identity? You should know that the God realm is the same as the large and small worlds. They all follow the laws of nature, where the strong prey on the weak. You've just arrived in the God realm, and you don't have any foundation at all. If you're not careful, you'll be swallowed whole by others. Do you know how many peerless geniuses of the God realm died prematurely before they could rise to prominence? I'm the perfect example. Although Mo Fenghua is a playboy, his identity is not ordinary. At least he can give you a foothold in the beginning of your rise. How can the little trouble he's caused trouble for you, the peerless overlord of the large world? As for his reputation, as long as a cultivator doesn't go against his heart, why should he care about his reputation?" Luo's words caused Su Fang to sink into deep thought. Finally, he made a decision. "Luo, you're right. The Kuan Su Divine Sect is my place to stay. From this moment on, I'm Mo Fenghua." Luo chuckled and continued, "With the identity of Mo Fenghua, not only will you not lack cultivation resources, you can also pursue women legitimately. You can even get the imperial concubines and princesses of Kuan Su godly country to serve you in bed. It's not impossible." "Su Fang, you're truly shameless." Chapter 1840. Su Fang made the decision to stay in Kuan Su's divine sect to cultivate as Mo Fenghua. After entering the barrier, Su Fang used his great perfection vision and had a panoramic view of Kuan Su's divine realm. Kuan Su's divine realm was a huge mountain range condensed from matter. At the foot of the mountain range there was a god country built by mortals. Most of the people inside were mortals, and there were tens of billions of them. The strongest cultivator was only at the mortal evolution state. From the mountainside there were sects and cultivation forces built by gods. There were as many as the hairs on a cow. At the top of the mountain, there was the number one force in charge of Kuan Su's divine realm, Kuan Su's divine sect. The sect master was Kuan Su's divine realm's realm master, Guru Kuan Su. In fact, the entire Kuan Su's divine realm was Guru Kuan Su's private territory. Kuan Su's divine sect had a total of 18 dojos surrounding the mountain peak. At the center of the mountain peak was the palace where Guru Kuan Su lived and cultivated. The closer he got to the mountain peak, the denser the natural spirit qi Su Fang sensed. This natural spirit qi was higher than the energy of the great world. If one didn't condense their body and yang spirit, they wouldn't be able to absorb it. The natural spirit qi of Kuan Su's divine realm was mainly of the earth element, and it contained the aura of the law of earth. Su Fang's great perfection ability sensed the spirit qi and the ethereal aura of the great Tao in it. He asked Law in surprise. Law, why is the energy and law of the divine realm higher than the great world? Different from the great Tao law of the great world, the great Tao law of the divine realm is the innate law, which is the great Tao contained in the origin of heaven and earth before heaven and earth was created. In the natural spirit Qi of the great world, the law contained is the postnatal law, which is the great Tao law after endless evolution. Therefore, the laws and energy of the divine realm are higher than that of the great world. Therefore, it is easier to explore the true meaning of the great Tao in the divine realm. The strength of gods is naturally far greater than that of immortals in the great world. Cultivation is to go straight to the origin. Therefore, cultivation in the divine realm is the beginning of your cultivation path. Law explained patiently, giving Su Fang a lot of insight in his heart. When he was about to reach the top of the mountain, Su Fang felt a majestic and heavy pressure coming from the mountain. Fortunately, he had already condensed a divine body at this moment, and had even reached the height of the heaven god realm, so he naturally did not fear this bit of pressure. However, the storage rings that Su Fang had hidden in his body all shattered. These storage rings from large worlds had been hidden in Su Fang's body, but they were still crushed to pieces by the terrifying shackles of the world. Looks like I'll have to change my storage magic treasure. Mo Qing, that dog of a slave, truly deserves to die. With Mo Fenghua's status, she naturally didn't lack storage magic treasures. However, when Su Fang fused with Mo Fenghua's body, he didn't have anything on him other than clothes. Naturally, he was robbed clean. Although Mo Fenghua was on the verge of death at that time, he still had vague memories of these events. The person who robbed him was none other than his sidekick, Mo Qing. What was especially hateful was that not only did Mo Qing throw away Mo Fenghua's corpse, he even swaggered back to Kuan Su's divine sect and lied that Mo Fenghua's whereabouts were unknown. Such a vile slave caused Su Fang's heart to be filled with killing intent. Uncle Chong brought Su Fang and flew towards a dojo. Along the way they encountered many cultivators. Isn't that Mo Fenghua, that idiot? Didn't they say that he was humiliated by Sanskrit's young master and ran away from home in anger? What run away from home? I heard that his essence was sucked dry by a woman and he died. What a disgrace! Even Elder Xianlingzi was humiliated. What qualifications does such trash have to become the young master of Xianling Dojo? Many cultivators looked at Su Fang from afar and whispered. After all, Mo Fenghua's status was there, so these cultivators didn't dare to be too presumptuous and talk about Mo Fenghua in front of him. Therefore, their voices were very low. However, these cultivators' discussions couldn't escape Su Fang's great perfection hearing, and his eyebrows immediately furrowed. Young master can hear their voices? Uncle Chong saw Su Fang's abnormality and immediately asked in surprise. Su Fang secretly said, "Not good," in his heart. His mind spun quickly, and he immediately explained, "Uncle Chong, I'll tell you the truth. This time, I was schemed against by Fan Su in the cloudy divine realm, and my life was hanging by a thread. Then, I was thrown into the void nebula by that dog slave Mo Qing." Uncle Chong immediately flew into a rage. Mo Qing, that dog slave, actually dared to do that. See if I don't kill him. Su Fang continued, "I also profited from a disaster. It just so happened that an energy tide exploded from the nebula. I originally thought that I would die without a doubt, but who knew that I survived the energy tide? My divine body also inexplicably became stronger, and my sensing ability also became much sharper. Then, Su Fang released a portion of blood energy, which was about the height of a ninth firmament true god." Uncle Chong was surprised and delighted. Young master's divine body actually reached such a height. How could this be? This old servant understands now. The cloudy divine realm is bordered by a large world. The energy tide that young master encountered must have been the Transformation Supreme Tao's Transformation Supreme Tao's power. It has the effect of cleansing the body. Moreover, the transformation Supreme Tao also has the Godhead nurtured by heaven and earth, which is of great help to the cultivation of a true God. Young Master must have obtained a great fortune. Uncle Chang's conjecture did not require any further explanation from Su Fang. In the future, if Su Fang displayed any extraordinary abilities, there would be no more doubts. Uncle Chong said excitedly, "Young Master, it's a blessing from the heavens that you obtained such a great fortune. You must cherish it. Don't be as capricious as before. This young lord knows what to do. Keep this matter a secret for this young lord for the time being. As for that dog of a slave, Mo Qing, this young lord will personally pull out his tendons and skin him alive." Su Fang instructed Count Chong again. While they were talking, Uncle Chong brought Su Fang through the formation into Xian Ling Dojo and arrived at a palace. This was where Mo Fenghua used to live. A young man in green was directing a group of cultivators to move things out of the palace. Upon seeing this young man in green, Su Fang's eyes emitted a sharp cold light. Uncle Chong also shouted angrily, "Mo Qing, you dog slave." That young man in green was Mo Fenghua's follower, Mo Qing. When he raised his head and saw Su Fang, Mo Qing looked as if he had seen a ghost. He screamed in fear and then shot out a flying sword, wanting to escape. "Where do you think you're going?" Uncle Chang's right foot suddenly stomped on the ground. A yellow Xian Guang swept out. An earth elemental divine might quickly covered Mo Qing and shackled him, making it difficult for him to move in the air. "Get down!" Uncle Chong shouted angrily and activated his divine might. Mo Qing fell to the ground and smashed a big hole in the hard ground. His body was shattered and his bones were also shattered. With a glance, Su Fang saw that Mo Qing was wearing a large green jade-like ring on his right thumb. It emitted a faint spatial fluctuation. It was Mo Fenghua's storage magic treasure, the mysterious jade ring. Su Fang's eyes flashed. He strode forward and grabbed the mysterious jade ring, forcibly breaking it along with Mo Qing's thumb. Mo Qing howled like a pig being slaughtered. "That's a treasure that young master Mo Yuntian bestowed to me. What's the use of keeping a slave like you who killed his master?" Uncle Chong said coldly. He raised his foot and was about to stomp Mo Qing's head into mush. Mo Qing was scared out of his wits. He shouted loudly, "Mo Chong, I'm young master Mo Yuntian's man. If you dare to kill me, young master Mo Yuntian will definitely not let you off." "Mo Yuntian?" Uncle Chong was startled and revealed a fearful expression. He slowly lowered his right foot. "Mo Yuntian?" Su Fang raised his eyebrows. Mo Yuntian was also a disciple of the Mo family, but a branch family disciple. However, this Mo Yuntian was extremely extraordinary. This person's cultivation talent was outstanding even in the entire Kuan Su divine sect. He was currently a special disciple of the Kuan Su divine sect and the #1 disciple of the Xian Ling Dao rite. Not only was Mo Yuntian's talent extraordinary, but he was also quite shrewd. He was highly regarded by the upper echelons of the rite as well as the divine sect's big shots. He could be said to be able to cover the sky with one hand among the Xian Ling Dao rite's disciples. He was also an illustrious person in the divine sect's 18 rite. Ever since Mo Fenghua's father had unfortunately fallen, the position of young master of the Xian Ling Dao rite had been empty. It was originally reserved for Mo Fenghua, the young master. However, Mo Fenghua was useless. Thus, Mo Yuntian became the best candidate for the rite's young master. However, Elder Xian Lingzi never nodded. Thus, Mo Yuntian was unable to fulfill his wish and Mo Fenghua became his biggest obstacle. "So you're a spy sent by Mo Yuntian to hide by this young master's side. This time, this young master went to the cloudy divine realm because of your instigation. Looks like it's also Mo Yuntian's scheme. What a Mo Yuntian! What kind of person was Su Fang?" He immediately deduced the cause and effect of this matter. Then, Su Fang murderously ordered Count Chong, Who does Mo Yuntian think he is? Search this dog-slave soul. This young master wants to clarify this matter. Yes. Count Chong grabbed Mo Qing in the air and pressed his palm against Mo Qing's head. Suddenly, a figure passed through the array and appeared in the sky above the palace. This was a young cultivator. He wore the yellow robes of the Kuan Su divine sect. This person's appearance was handsome and heroic. His figure was tall and slender, and he exuded a scholarly aura. Su Fang sensed this person's aura and deduced his cultivation. He had shockingly reached the fourth firmament of the heavenly deity realm, one step higher than Xia Yunji. To have such cultivation at such an age, it was truly shocking. Mo Yuntian. Young Master Mo Yuntian, save me. Mo Qing was like a drowning person who had grabbed onto a life-saving straw, crying out to Mo Yuntian for help. Mo Yuntian slowly flew over and ignored Mo Qing. Instead, he looked at Su Fang and smiled elegantly. I heard that something happened to young master and was about to head to the cloudy divine realm to save you. I didn't expect young master to actually return safely. Truly worthy of celebration. Su Fang raised the corners of his mouth, revealing a mocking smile. You should feel very disappointed, right? Young master didn't die. I'm naturally a little disappointed. Mo Yuntian spoke bluntly, his tone unbridled and domineering. Chapter 1841. Count Chong was caught off guard. In addition, he was wary of Mo Yuntian, so he couldn't make a move in time. Mo Yuntian killed Mo Qing unexpectedly. Such a slave is useless in this world. I'll kill him for young master. There's no need for young master to thank me. Mo Yuntian smiled embarrassedly and then left calmly. In front of everyone, Mo Yuntian killed Mo Qing to silence him. He didn't put young master Mo Fenghua in his eyes at all. So arrogant, so domineering. Young master. Looking at Mo Yuntian's back, Count Chong revealed killing intent. His master was humiliated. As a slave, even if he had to die, he had to get back his master's face. Let him be. Su Fang waved his hand. This Mo Yuntian is somewhat interesting. Haha, fighting with others brings endless joy. Then I'll fight with Mo Yuntian. Su Fang sneered in his heart and then walked into the temporary imperial residence. Just like this, Su Fang stayed in Kuan Su's divine world Xian Ling Dao right as Mo Fenghua. The room used for cultivation in the temporary imperial residence was already covered in a thick layer of dust. Clearly, young Master Mo never cultivated here. Su Fangda rolled up his sleeves and created a whirlwind to clean up the dust in the room. Buzz, the heaven's secret life shrinking techniques Dao symbol moved in his divine aperture. It turned out that someone was sensing Su Fang's aura. Su Fang pretended not to notice and sat down in the room. After a while, that aura disappeared without a trace. A sigh filled with disappointment came from the unseen world. This person should be Mo Fenghua's grandfather, Xian Ling Dao Right's Supreme Elder, Xian Lingzi. He must be extremely disappointed in Mo Fenghua right now. Su Fang smiled helplessly. After sitting for a while, no one paid attention to this place. Su Fang took out a rune talisman and poured magic power into it. The rune talisman immediately melted and turned into a phantom. It was formed from the consciousness that Elder Crane left in the rune talisman. Su Fang transmitted his primordial spirit voice. Senior, I've already arrived at the myriad worlds. It's inconvenient for me to go out now. I can only let you appear here temporarily and let you feel the aura of the myriad worlds. This is the myriad worlds? Sure enough, it's different from the great world. I, Yao He Old Immortal, can feel the aura of the myriad worlds. I can die without regrets. Su Fang, many thanks. So this crane old man's name was Yao He Old Immortal. Senior, you died because you saved me. I promise you that one day, I will kill Grand Star Ancestor and avenge you. Su Fang gritted his teeth when he thought of Grand Star Ancestor. If it wasn't for Ancestor Hongxing, Su Fang might have already fused with the primal chaos godhead and left the transformation supreme Tao realm. He wouldn't have been separated from his second primordial spirit and the three brothers of the Liao family. He wouldn't have pretended to be a good-for-nothing and come to Kuan Su's divine sect. Su Fang, you are a peerless figure from a great world. One day, you will rise to prominence in the myriad worlds. Unfortunately, I won't be able to witness that day, Yao Crane Old Immortal said with a smile, and his consciousness gradually turned blurry. Senior, please wait, Su Fang suddenly said. The consciousness that was about to dissipate trembled. Su Fang, do you have anything else to say? Senior, if you can bear the loneliness, please stay by my side for the time being and witness the day I kill Grand Star Ancestor with my own hands. I have already died. What else is there that I can't bear? That's fine. I want to see how Grand Star Ancestor dies. What's wrong with prolonging my feeble existence for a few more days? Su Fang took out the soul-nourishing wood from the time and space cavern and let Yao, he Old Immortal's consciousness, who could disappear at any time, reside in it. The soul-nourishing wood was a supreme divine wood that could nourish the primordial spirit. Su Fang originally gave it to Luo to restore his primordial spirit. However, Luo was cultivating the Immortal Soul Codex, so the soul-nourishing wood wasn't very useful to him. That was why Su Fang let Yao, he Old Immortal, reside in it. Su Fang had a bold idea. He wanted to restore Yao, he Old Immortal's primordial spirit one day, and then use the immortal blood spirit to revive him. It could be considered as repaying the favor of saving his life. Su Fang believed that if he cultivated the Yellow Spring Blood Sea to the limit of the myriad worlds, then raised the Yellow Spring reincarnation technique to the God tier, it wouldn't be impossible to revive Yao, he Old Immortal. After storing the soul-nourishing wood into his inner world and sealing it, Su Fang's consciousness entered the profound jade ring. This profound jade ring was originally Mo Fenghua's storage magic treasure. Now, it could be considered as returning it to its rightful owner. The space inside the profound jade ring wasn't very big. It was only 100 feet in radius. Ordinary storage magic treasures in the God realm usually only had a space of 3 meters. This profound jade ring was already considered quite extraordinary. What disappointed Su Fangda was that other than a few sporadic items, there wasn't a sea of elixirs, divine artifacts, spiritual items, or resources that he had imagined. It was very obvious that after the profound jade ring was taken by the evil slave Mo Qing, he definitely didn't dare to keep it for himself. Instead, he gave it to Mo Yuntian. The various treasures that originally belonged to Mo Fenghua naturally fell into Mo Yuntian's hands. Mo Yuntian, you took my things. Sooner or later, you'll have to spit them out. I, Su Fang, will also take your life. Su Fang felt as if Mo Yuntian had snatched away something that belonged to him. His killing intent towards Mo Yuntian became even more intense. After carefully inspecting the items in the profound jade ring, Su Fang immediately smiled bitterly. Within the magic treasures space, there were more than 100 low-grade god essence pills and more than 200 coins made of jade. These coins were very peculiar. Their appearance was the same as the copper coins used in the mortal world. They were round on the outside and square on the inside. The material looked like jade, but it was actually formed by a supreme divine ability combined with a formation, condensing the natural energy of heaven and earth. There were traces on the coins. Some of them were similar to Tao marks. They emitted abundant spirit qi and the aura of the great Tao. These are divine jade treasures. They are sold by the Tong Bao Merchant Association. They can be used anywhere in the myriad worlds. The traces on the divine jade are similar to the Tao marks in the bodies of cultivators in the great world. They are called heaven marks. They are marks formed by the heavenly Tao. When you advance to the divine realm, such heaven marks will appear in your body. Thus, these divine jade treasures aren't just coins. Cultivators can also use them for cultivation. It's just that the price of cultivation is a bit high. Luo explained. Using coins as cultivation materials? Su Fang was both shocked and astonished. The Tong Bao Merchant Association can actually sell coins. Their power is truly terrifying. Within the profound jade ring there were 2 runes. One of them was sealed with a cultivation method and the other was an offensive divine ability. The cultivation method was called the thick earth essence condensation technique. It was a basic cultivation method for true gods who had just advanced to the true god realm to condense their divine essence. Almost every disciple of Kuan Su's divine sect had cultivated it before. It wasn't a powerful cultivation method. The offensive divine ability was called the mountain controlling art. Its power was average. It was also the most common divine ability of Kuan Su's divine sect disciples. When cultivated to the extreme, one could control the power of mountains. However, no one would truly cultivate such a low-level divine ability to the extreme. A dignified young master of a dojo cultivating such a common skill? I'll go find Xianlingzi in a few days and ask for a powerful cultivation method and divine ability. The cultivators of Kuan Su's divine sect mainly cultivated the great Tao of Earth. Thus, their cultivation methods and divine abilities were mainly of the earth element. It wasn't that they didn't cultivate other great Taos, but they were all auxiliary. Su Fang cultivated the 9 Yang 9 transformations. He had mastered supreme divine abilities such as the giant diamond body, the Herculean divine palm, and the indestructible golden body. He also had a divine-level cultivation method and divine ability, like the illusory fire cloud. Originally, he didn't need to cultivate other cultivation methods and divine abilities. However, with Su Fang's current strength and Mo Fenghua's identity in Kuan Su's divine sect, these cultivation methods and divine abilities obviously couldn't be exposed. For the time being, he could only cultivate the cultivation methods and divine abilities of Kuan Su's divine sect. Su Fang naturally wouldn't be interested in ordinary cultivation methods and divine abilities. Thus, Su Fang decided to ask Xianlingzi for something more powerful when he had the chance. He couldn't be his grandson for nothing. Xianlingzi was also a supreme expert in Kuan Su's divine realm. He had quite a bit of power and naturally had some exceptional cultivation methods and divine abilities. There was also a divine-level flying sword in the Xian Jade Ring. However, it was the lowest level type. It couldn't even be considered a low-grade divine weapon. It belonged to the category of low-grade goods. Naturally, Su Fang wouldn't be interested in it. Who, in a secret realm in Xian Ling Dao sect, Mo Yuntian passed through a formation. After forming a seal, he muttered a few words and released the voice of his origin spirit. A moment later, an illusory origin spirit shadow appeared in front of Mo Yuntian. Mo Yuntian, what's the matter? Mo Yuntian said respectfully, tomorrow, the sect's upper echelons will have a meeting to severely punish Mo Fenghua. I hope Elder Qi will speak out and help at that time. The origin spirit shadow said indifferently, the sovereign dotes on Mo Fenghua. Why would he punish him? This matter has already alarmed the leader. The sovereign has no choice but to protect Mo Fenghua. Mo Yuntian said very confidently. You're doing this for the position of Xian Ling Dao sect's young master, right? Elder Qi's vision is like a torch. Mo Yuntian flattered without leaving a trace. Then, Mo Fenghua handed over a piece of gray soil. This piece of calamity soil, disciple will first show my filial respect to Elder Qi. After the matter is completed, disciple will have even more rewards. Calamity soil. Elder Qi's origin spirit shadow trembled. Clearly, he was shocked by Mo Yuntian's generosity. The so-called calamity soil was the bones left behind by a deity who mainly cultivated the great Tao of Earth after failing the primal chaos divine tribulation. Don't underestimate this piece of bone. When ordinary deities failed the tribulation, their souls would be destroyed and turned into ashes. Nothing would be left behind. Only experts who cultivated the great Tao of Earth, and were at the same level as Master Kuan Su, would occasionally leave behind some bones after failing the tribulation. These bones contained the expert's life's cultivation essence, as well as a trace of primal chaos aura from the divine tribulation. Therefore, calamity soil became a supreme treasure. It was extremely useful even for experts like Master Kuan Su. How could Elder Qi not be tempted? Elder Qi's origin spirit shadow shattered and dissipated into nothingness. However, a Xian Guang swept out from the depths of the secret realm. It swept up the calamity soil and broke through the sky. Mo Yuntian revealed a proud expression. I, Mo Yuntian, don't just want to become the young master of a mere Xian Ling Dao sect. I want to become a powerful expert of a small world or even a large world. The young master of Xian Ling Dao sect is only a springboard for me. The divine nation's imperial family and the Dao sect must be prepared properly. This time, nothing must go wrong. Chapter 1842. Su Fang was sitting cross-legged in the quiet room when a sudden thunderous shout exploded in the air. Unfilial descendant, come here and receive your punishment. Su Fang was shocked and astonished. An incomparably powerful divine aura descended and enveloped him before directly grabbing him from the quiet room. 8 Reading Book, Infinity. Su Fang felt the sky and earth spinning before he was heavily thrown onto the ground. The fall caused his blood to churn and he almost vomited blood. He stood up shakily and only then did he realize that he had been captured and brought to Xian Ling Dojo's discussion hall. In the hall, not only were the upper echelons of Xian Ling Dojo all present, a great elder from Kuan Su Divine Sect, Mo Yuntian, and other special disciples were also present. What surprised Su Fang was that Xia Yunji had actually returned to Kuan Su Divine Realm so quickly and stood behind the yellow-browed elder. Unfilial son, look what you've done. The old man sitting majestically on the throne let out another thunderous shout, causing Su Fang's chest to feel stuffy. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood and took 3 steps back, almost sitting on the ground. This old man was tall and mighty like a towering mountain, giving people the feeling of looking up to a tall mountain. At this moment, his white brows were furiously raised and his eyes were burning with flames of anger. He glared at Su Fang, causing Su Fang to tremble. This old man is Xianlingzi. Is he Mo Fenghua's grandfather or not? How could he treat me like this without any explanation? Su Fang was very depressed. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Disdain, anger, and gloating gazes all landed on Su Fang. The yellow-browed elder beside Xianlingzi stroked his yellow beard and said majestically, Elder Xianlingzi, Mo Fenghua came to Sanskrit this time in the cloudy divine realm and caused trouble for no reason. Not only did she lose face for Kuan Su Divine Sect, she also angered Sanskrit. Sanskrit specially sent people to question the leader. If we do not punish Mo Fenghua this time around, it will be difficult for us to account to the leader and Sanskrit. This yellow-browed old man was one of the great elders of the Kuan Su Divine Sect. His position was even a level higher than Xianlingzi's. Moreover, he came under the orders of Master Kuan Su. It seemed that if he didn't deal with Mo Fenghua, he wouldn't stop this time. Xianlingzi snorted. Although he knew the whole story, he had no choice but to swallow his pride in the face of the powerful Sanskrit. Su Fang sneered in his heart. Fan Su's revenge came so quickly and so fiercely. At this moment, Xia Yunji said coldly, not only do we have to give Sanskrit and Divine Sect an explanation, Mo Fenghua humiliated me and ruined my reputation. No matter what, we have to give an explanation. Mo Fenghua's way of doing things is so impetuous. She has damaged Divine Sect's reputation and almost caused a conflict with Sanskrit. If we don't restrain her, I'm afraid she'll attract a huge disaster in the future. An elder of the Xian Ling Dojo sighed, as if he expected better from Mo Fenghua. This person was Elder Qi of the Xian Ling Dojo. Although his position was a level lower than Xianlingzi's, He was still a powerful figure in the dojo. Xian Lingzi looked at Su Fang. Seeing the blood flowing out of Su Fang's mouth, he couldn't bear it. However, when he looked at the yellow-browed old man and Xia Yunji, his face was filled with helplessness and anger. After all, Mo Fenghua was Xian Lingzi's only descendant. She was beaten up in the cloudy divine realm and almost lost her life. How could he not feel heartache? However, Sanskrit and divine sect still came to denounce Mo Fenghua. They wanted nothing more than to kill Mo Fenghua to vent their anger. Such tyranny made Xian Lingzi angry but helpless. Who told Sanskrit to be so powerful and his grandson to be so disappointing? Suddenly, a dignified old man hurriedly came to the hall. Xian Lingzi hurriedly stood up to welcome him. Punishment, great elder. The dignified old man fiercely glared at Su Fang and said coldly, Xian Lingzi, you should take care of your precious grandson. Xian Lingzi felt his scalp go numb. What did Fenghua do this time? Su Fang was also stunned. The dignified old man said, over 100 female disciples went to the punishment hall to accuse Mo Fenghua of being dissolute and tyrannical. She relied on her status to humiliate and play with these female disciples. Her misdeeds are so bad that even I am shocked. Play with over 100 female disciples? This Mo Fenghua has such ability? Su Fang was both shocked and stunned. Then, the dignified old man said in a low voice, what's even more absurd is that Mo Fenghua entered the divine nation imperial palace. Imperial concubines, princesses, and more than a dozen others. Such evil behavior is simply outrageous. Moreover, before she left, she took the divine nation's imperial jade seal. Right now, the divine nation emperor is kneeling in front of the mountain gate, begging Mo Fenghua to return the imperial jade seal. Mo Fenghua really did come to the divine nation imperial palace to cause trouble. The so-called imperial concubines and princesses were just thoughts, but she didn't put them into action. As for taking away the imperial jade seal, that's even more of a non-existent matter. Su Fang's eyebrows furrowed, smelling the scent of a conspiracy. Catching a glimpse of the cold smile in Mo Yuntian's deep eyes, Su Fang suddenly realized that all of this was his doing. Kneel! Xian Lingzi was unable to restrain his anger. He exploded with a burst of divine power, which descended on Su Fang's body. Su Fang felt as if the entire Kuan Su mountain was pressing down on his body. His legs went soft, and he knelt on the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. What made Su Fang feel strange was that although Xian Lingzi's divine power seemed terrifying, the moment Su Fang knelt down, the pressure on his body disappeared without a trace. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked miserable, but in fact, he wasn't injured. On the contrary, the blood and qi in his divine body became smoother. Then the voice of Xian Lingzi's primordial spirit rang out in Su Fang's divine aperture. Hurry up and admit your mistake. Su Fang understood Xian Lingzi's intention. A surge of warmth welled up in his heart, but he didn't admit his mistake. Instead, he raised his head, a cold smile on his face, and an unruly appearance. Xian Lingzi sighed helplessly. Mud really can't help a wall. A dojo elder suddenly opened his mouth. Fenghua is still young after all. Besides, it's not a big deal. Plus, he also suffered a big loss, so it's fine to reprimand him. If there's anything wrong, it's Fenghua's servant who didn't do his duty as a servant. Being attacked by a group of people, Su Fang was surprised that someone actually spoke up to help him out. The one who helped Mo Fenghua out was a female cultivator. Her face was beautiful and charming, and there was a faint demonic aura in her aura. She was actually a demon fox whose strength surpassed the divine realm. So it's her. This demon fox was called Ling Xiangmei. She was originally a demon god subdued by Xian Lingzi. Later, she cultivated successfully and made great contributions to the Kuan Su divine sect. Only then did she become the only demon god elder in the entire Kuan Su divine sect. Ling Xiangmei admired Mo Fenghua's father very much. She also doted on Mo Fenghua and saw him as a nephew. It wasn't strange for her to speak up at this time. Xian Lingzi finally found a way out. He stretched out his hand and grabbed in the air. An old man broke through the air and fell heavily beside Su Fang. It was Uncle Chong. Xian Lingzi said majestically. Mo Chong, as a servant by the young master's side, you don't know how to loyally protect your master. Instead, you instigate your master to do many evil things. Do you know your crimes? Mo Chong saw the situation in the hall. How could he not understand? He repeatedly kowtowed on the ground. These things have nothing to do with the young master. This old servant instigated the young master to do these things. I'm willing to be punished. Punishment, Grand Elder. I'll leave this evil servant to you. What do you think? As for the leader, I'll naturally go and explain to him. Xian Lingzi said to the dignified old man. Fine. Punishment, Grand Elder shook his head helplessly. After all, Xian Lingzi was the leader of a dojo and not an ordinary elder. He also had a close relationship with Kuan Su. He had to give him face. Moreover, although Mo Fenghua's matter was a bit absurd, it wasn't a big deal to the Kuan Su divine sect. Since there was someone to take the blame, reprimanding Mo Fenghua would be over. Xia Yunji suddenly sneered. Leader, I was humiliated by Mo Fenghua. How will you explain this to me? Could it be that you also want this old servant to take the blame for him? The yellow-browed old man also said. As for other things, perhaps the leader would give you face and let this old servant take the blame. Offending the Sanskrit, smearing the name of the sect, and humiliating Lady Xia. How will you explain this to the Sanskrit and the leader? Xian Lingzi was finally enraged. He said in a low voice, What do you want? Xia Yunji's sharp gaze swept over Su Fang. She said coldly, Cancel my engagement with Mo Fenghua and destroy his cultivation path. Once she said this, the hall fell silent. So this was the main event. Xia Yunji and the Sanskrit young master were in cahoots. As long as there was no evidence, outsiders would only laugh at Mo Fenghua for being a coward. They wouldn't say anything about Xian Lingzi. At most, they would laugh at him for raising an idiot grandson. At this moment, Xia Yunji proposed to cancel the engagement. In the strict Kuan Su divine sect, this was an extremely serious matter. It was equivalent to slapping Xian Lingzi's old face in front of everyone. Moreover, it was extremely loud. Moreover, Xia Yunji even proposed to destroy Mo Fenghua's cultivation path. This was extremely ruthless. As for the humiliation towards Mo Fenghua, everyone automatically ignored it. This idiot trash, no matter how big the humiliation, it was reasonable. Xian Lingzi's body trembled. He said coldly, Lady Xia, is this the leader's intention? Xia Yunji said proudly, This is my intention. What kind of trash is Mo Fenghua? What qualifications does he have to be my Dao companion? After that, she threatened. Young Master Fan Su said that if Lord Sovereign isn't willing to break off the engagement, then he'll come and challenge Mo Fenghua. At that time, Mo Fenghua's life will be in danger, and Lord Sovereign's illustrious reputation will be destroyed. Good, good, good. Xian Lingzi sneered. Then his body trembled. He spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood landed on the wall of the palace and blasted a large hole in it. Seeing Xian Lingzi suddenly wither, the punishment elder and the others all sighed. Their descendants were unfilial, forcing Xian Lingzi, a divine sect expert, to such a state. It was truly lamentable. I'll give you an explanation. Su Fang's clanging voice suddenly sounded. Then he slowly stood up from the ground and pulled Uncle Chong up. You? Xia Yunji snorted. Chapter 1843. Fenghua, forget it. This time we'll accept it. Xian Lingzi weakly waved his hand, looking dispirited. Grandfather, you've spoiled me since I was young. You've always made decisions for me. This time, let grandson make the decision. Su Fang's decisive tone made everyone stunned. Why did this idiot young master seem like a different person? Then, everyone laughed involuntarily. This idiot still doesn't understand the situation he's in. Xian Lingzi looked at Su Fang in surprise, then slowly said, "Tell us." Su Fang looked at the penalty elder. "Penalty elder, you played with female disciples. The imperial concubines and princesses of Divine Kingdom took the national seal. These things have nothing to do with Count Chong. I'll take responsibility." Everyone was surprised. Although Mo Fenghua was a good-for-nothing, he was actually as timid as a mouse. When he encountered something, he would shrink back. He was a typical example of someone who was strong in appearance but weak in reality. Now, how did he become so responsible? He actually stood up for a slave? Count Chong was shocked and stunned. Then he shouted, "Young master, what did you do? All the blame is on this old slave. How can you take responsibility for this old slave?" Su Fang laughed. "Count Chong, at your age, can you play with hundreds of female disciples? Can you play with the imperial concubines and princesses of Divine Kingdom?" Count Chong was speechless. Everyone roared with laughter. Mo Yuntian sneered in his heart. "You idiot, you don't want to die fast enough?" The penalty elder said in a low voice, "Kid, this time you finally act like a man. However, the sex laws won't forgive you." Su Fang clasped his hands. "Penalty elder, please investigate. These so-called crimes are all fabricated." The penalty elder was startled, then he sneered. "So many people are framing you?" Su Fang said, "If you want to prove my innocence, it can't be any simpler. Just find a few female disciples, as well as the imperial concubines and princesses of the Divine Kingdom, and perform a soul-searching on them." Elder Qi glanced at Mo Yuntian and suddenly said, "Young master's words have never been trustworthy. Wouldn't it be disappointing to search the souls of divine sex disciples, Divine Kingdom's imperial concubines, and princesses just because of his words?" The others nodded in agreement. Mo Fenghua's reputation in the past was too bad. Who would believe his words? Su Fang said to Xian Lingzi, "Grandpa, trust me this time." Xian Lingzi saw the determination in Su Fang's eyes that he had never seen before and said in a deep voice, "Do as Fenghua says. If we find out that these people dared to frame my grandson, those female disciples will all be crippled and expelled from the divine sect. As for the divine nation emperor, if he dares to make false accusations, I will exterminate his entire family." Seeing Xian Lingzi's insistence, the first elder of punishment hesitated for a moment, then nodded and said, "If we find out that it was Mo Fenghua who did it, the punishment will be doubled." Su Fang said, "If what this young master said is false, I am willing to accept any punishment. You better not be lying. Otherwise, I won't even give Xian Lingzi face, and will heavily punish you. You wait here. It won't take long for me to get to the bottom of this." The first elder of punishment said coldly and immediately walked out of the hall. In the eyes of Kuan Su, the female disciples and the divine nation emperor were like ants. What was the point of soul-searching? Everyone waited in the hall, each with different expressions. Mo Yuntian's expression looked normal, but his heart was burning with anxiety. Shouldn't this trash be scared shitless? How can he still have such guts and schemes? Mo Yuntian looked at Su Fang, his heart filled with doubt. Those 100 female disciples and the divine nation emperor were naturally his arrangements. In his imagination, with so many people testifying, Mo Fenghua would have no way to defend himself. With his reputation, no one would believe him. Moreover, although Mo Fenghua looked like a dandy, he was actually weak and incompetent. In the end, he would definitely push all the blame onto the servant. At that time, even if Xian Lingzi could protect Mo Fenghua from punishment, he would have no choice but to strip him of his young master's status. Then, Elder Qi and the other upper echelons of the dojo would secretly help, and Mo Yuntian would naturally become the young master of the dojo. Moreover, Xia Yunji had used Sanskrit's tiger skin to tyrannically break off the engagement and even wanted to cripple Mo Fenghua. Under these circumstances, Mo Fenghua actually dared to take responsibility and propose a soul search. He didn't go according to Mo Yuntian's plan at all. This trash actually has some schemes. I've underestimated him before. However, you've offended Sanskrit's young master and Xia Yunji. Even if I don't do anything, you're still dead. Mo Yuntian re-examined Su Fang. There was no longer the contempt in his eyes, but he didn't take him seriously either. In his opinion, Mo Fenghua was dead for sure this time. Even if his innocence was proven, it would be useless. Less than an hour later, the first elder of punishment hurriedly returned and fiercely glared at Su Fang. Su Fang was astonished. Could it be that Mo Fenghua really did these things before? Now we're in big trouble. The first elder of punishment coldly shouted, "You brat, you're simply a pervert." Su Fang's heart thumped. Xian Lingzi revealed a disappointed expression. The others either sneered or scoffed. The first elder of punishment continued, "Although you didn't abuse your power to bully those female disciples and didn't do anything in the Divine Nation Palace, you're extremely perverted. You like to collect women's underwear, and if you can't get it by force, you steal and rob. It's like this in the dojo, and it's the same in the Divine Nation Palace. You're really a pervert." Su Fang was dumbstruck. This time it was over. His reputation had hit rock bottom, and it would be difficult to clear it in the future. Xian Lingzi and the others were both shocked and stunned, and then they couldn't help but laugh. Ling Xiangmei's divine light changed in an instant, and then she fiercely glared at Su Fang. "You bastard, no wonder my underwear often disappeared. It turned out that it was you who did it. I'm your father's woman, and you dare to do this. See if I don't peel off a layer of your skin." Su Fang helplessly touched the tip of his nose. "First elder of punishment, although my hobby, although a little special, it's not against the sex law, right? These female disciples, as well as the emperor of the Divine Nation, someone is manipulating behind the scenes. I'll find out clearly. You brat, you should restrain yourself a little in the future. If you don't change your bad habits, I'll directly chop off your hands." The first elder of punishment coldly snorted, and then laughed and left. The atmosphere in the hall became strange. The previous tense atmosphere had completely disappeared. Xian Lingzi was both angry and amused. He felt that although his precious grandson was a little ridiculous, he was not so useless. "You said you want to break off the engagement?" Su Fang looked at Xia Yunji and smiled with an expression that said, "I'm a silk pants, I'm not afraid of anyone. Do you think a mud like you is qualified to be my Dao companion?" Xia Yunji disdainfully sneered, and her eyes were full of disdain and hatred. Su Fang domineeringly said, "I don't agree. It's not up to you. If you don't agree, young Master Fan Su will. He will come to challenge me and kill me in a duel, right?" Su Fang rudely interrupted Xia Yunji. "Don't misunderstand. I don't agree to break off the engagement because I don't want to pester you." Xia Yunji mockingly said, "Then what do you want?" Su Fang's eyes flashed with light, and his gaze swept over everyone in the hall, and finally stopped at Xia Yunji. Then Su Fang sneered. "You're not a woman. You're still waiting to be married, but you've already hooked up with other men. You're even worse than the girls in the brothel. You even colluded with others and almost killed me. How can I, Mo Fenghua, be a Dao companion with a fickle woman like you?" Su Fang's voice was like a clap of thunder, and it rumbled in the hall, shocking everyone. "This kid is crazy." That was what everyone thought. Xia Yunji's face was pale, and she was so angry that her body trembled. Am I wrong?" Su Fang sneered. Then he suddenly raised his voice and said word by word, "I've decided to break up with you, a woman who doesn't abide by the Tao." Another clap of thunder, and everyone who had just woken up was stunned. Xia Yunji gritted her teeth and said, "Trash, don't you dare." "Why wouldn't I dare?" Su Fong used the tip of his foot as a pen and wrote the word break on the white jade floor. Here's the divorce letter. Su Fong stomped his foot, and a 3 feet square stone slab flew from the ground to Xia Yunji. Trash, you're courting death. Xia Yunji was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. She screamed and smashed the stone slab into pieces, and then fiercely clawed at Su Fong. Miss Xia, please respect yourself. Uncle Chong flashed forward and blocked Su Fong, and used his chest to take Xia Yunji's furious attack. His cultivation was much higher than Xia Yunji's, and this attack not only didn't move him at all, but it also forced Xia Yunji back. Everyone in the hall, even those who looked down on Mo Fenghua the most, couldn't help but cheer for him in their hearts. But when they calmed down and thought about it, they thought that Mo Fenghua didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Now that he was happy, how should he deal with this? Xia Yunji coldly shouted, "Trash, you dare to humiliate me like this? My grandfather definitely won't let you go." Su Fong inexplicably snorted and said, "You humiliated my grandfather like this and even made me wear a green hat. Which man can endure such humiliation? Can't I break up with you? Even the leader of the divine sect can't win against this logic." Xia Yunji was speechless, and then coldly laughed. "Perhaps my grandfather will consider his old relationship with the Xianling sovereign, and won't lower himself to your level. You've offended Sanskrit, let's see how you explain it to them." "Why should I explain it to Sanskrit?" Su Fong domineeringly said. "Not only that, Fan Su injured me, and even plotted to kill me. I want Sanskrit to give me an explanation." Xia Yunji disdainfully sneered. "Who do you think you are to have Sanskrit give you an explanation? I'm indeed nothing, and I don't have the qualifications to have Sanskrit give me an explanation. But I have a life. I want to challenge Fan Su, and in 3,000 years, I want to fight him to the death." Su Fong's words caused everyone in the hall to be deeply shocked. Fenghua, don't mess around. Chapter 1844. Challenging Sanskrit's young Duke Fan Su? How high was Mo Fenghua's cultivation? Mortal evolution state. In other words, he was still a mortal of the god realm. What was Fan Su's cultivation level? 6th heaven of the heavenly god realm, nearly 2 major realms higher than Mo Fenghua. The difference between the two was similar to the difference between a child and an adult. Fan Su was also a prodigy of Sanskrit in the turbid cloud realm. He definitely wasn't an ordinary heavenly god realm expert. Mo Fenghua actually wanted to challenge Fan Su. Wasn't this a huge joke? In everyone's opinion, Su Fong must have been driven crazy today. First, he divorced Xia Yunji. Then, he recklessly challenged Fan Su. This was no different from suicide. Xian Lingzi didn't expect his precious grandson to change from his usual cowardice to such a daring one. He was instantly scared out of his wits and hurriedly spoke out to stop him. However, there were also people who had a whole new level of respect for Su Fong. For example, Ling Xiangmei. She sized up Su Fong in astonishment and thought to herself, "I didn't expect this brat to actually learn how to scheme. First, we need to stabilize the Brahma race. Then, this brat can slip away and escape to another divine realm. Do you think the Brahma race will chase him all over the universe?" After a moment of surprise, the others also thought that Su Fong was planning to escape. Xia Yunji was shocked and then sneered. "Very well, I'll definitely tell young Duke Fan Su about your challenge. I'll let you live for another 3,000 years. After 3,000 years, if you don't dare to accept the challenge, not only will you not be able to escape Sanskrit's pursuit, but even Elder Xian Lingzi will be implicated. 3,000 years later, I'll be waiting for Fan Su at Kuan Su's divine sect." Su Fong smiled coldly. "You overestimate yourself." Xia Yunji snorted and glanced at Su Fong as though she was looking at a dead man. Then, she floated away. Challenging young Duke Sanskrit is no joke. It concerns the honor of Kuan Su's divine sect. If you run away after 3,000 years, the divine sect will definitely not let you go," the yellow-browed elder said and then left. "Yun Tian, you really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." Xian Lingzi saw that the matter was a foregone conclusion and could not be changed. He could only sigh helplessly, thinking about how to send his grandson out of Kuan Su's realm of the gods, as far as possible. Su Fang cupped his fists at Xian Lingzi and said loudly, "Grandfather, I was young and inexperienced in the past. After experiencing life and death in the turbid cloud divine world, I have understood many things. I've decided to turn over a new leaf and never let grandfather worry about me again." Xian Lingzi's body trembled. His eyes emitted a strange light as he looked at Su Fang in disbelief. At this moment, the anger, worry, and depression in his heart suddenly disappeared. Elder Qi said sarcastically, "It's indeed a good thing that young master can come to his senses. I'm just afraid that it's easy to change mountains and rivers, but difficult to change one's nature." Mo Yuntian continued, "Young master, you've made the sovereign worry for you all these years. I'm very happy for you that you can repent now. If there's anything you need my help with, young master can just ask. I hope that you can defeat Mr. Fan Su 3,000 years later and become famous in Kuan Su's realm of the gods. Xian Ling Dojo will also have a successor." Mo Yuntian's face was sincere, which made Su Fang feel a little moved. This person is ambitious and his methods are also extraordinary. Unfortunately, he met me, Su Fang. Since I promised Mo Fenghua that I would help him resolve all his hatred and wash away his shame, Mo Yuntian is the main culprit behind Mo Fenghua's death. Naturally, I can't let you go. Su Fang sneered in his heart, but on the surface, he was very grateful. He cupped his fists and said, "I'll thank you first. I really do have something that I need your help with." Mo Yuntian smiled elegantly. "Young master, please speak. As long as I can do it, I will do my best." Su Fang said, "My servant Mo Qing stole my Xian jade ring when I was unconscious. Although I recovered the Xian jade ring, some of the treasures in the ring are missing. You have some power in Xian Ling Dojo, why don't you help me look for them?" Mo Yuntian heard the threat in Su Fang's words. Worried that he would expose him in front of everyone, he quickly said with a smile, "Young master, what treasures did you lose?" Su Fang said indifferently, "Actually, there aren't many things. Just 10,000 low-grade Divine Essence Dawn, 1,000 mid-grade Divine Essence Dawn, 100,000 Divine Essence Dawn, a high-grade Divine Artifact, and various other gems and spiritual items. Altogether, they are worth about 200,000 Divine Essence Dawn. Mo Yuntian, help me find them." "How can there be so much?" Mo Yuntian was shocked. Mo Qing stole Su Fang's Xian jade ring and didn't dare to keep it for himself, so he gave it to Mo Yuntian. Although there were many treasures inside, how could there be so many as Su Fang said? Mo Yuntian originally pretended to be generous to show off in front of Xian Lingzi and the other higher-ups. Later, he would casually give Su Fang some Divine Essence Dawn to fool him and shut his mouth. If it was as Su Fang said, then even if he sold himself, he wouldn't be able to afford it. Young master must be joking. Even if I have the ability to reach the heavens, I can't find so many treasures. At most, I can only help young master recover a portion." Mo Yuntian smiled embarrassedly. Only now did he realize that the Mo Fenghua in front of him was no longer the useless trash from before, but a powerful character. "So you're also a person who doesn't mean what he says," Su Fang said disdainfully. Mo Yuntian was furious, but in front of Xian Lingzi, he couldn't turn hostile and could only smile awkwardly. Xian Lingzi said majestically, "Fenghua, since you plan to turn over a new leaf, this is a good thing. Grandfather is deeply gratified. It's just that today you first divorced Xia Yunji and then challenged Fan Su. Although it was delightful, it was a bit rash. Grandfather plans to send you out to gain experience. Make some preparations and leave tomorrow." Elder Ling, I'll trouble you to take Fenghua away from Kuan Su's divine realm. Yes. Ling Xiangmei cupped her fists and responded. Su Fang didn't expect Xianlingzi to make such arrangements, and couldn't help but feel touched. Escape from Kuan Su's divine realm? With such a big tree like Xianlingzi and such a good identity, how could Su Fang bear to leave Kuan Su's divine realm? Moreover, Su Fang didn't challenge Fan Su on a whim. If he didn't kill Fan Su, Xia Yunji, and Mo Yuntian, and completely solve Mo Fenghua's matters, how could Su Fang leave? Su Fangda said, Grandfather, I challenged Fan Su not because I lost my mind, but because I really wanted to challenge him. I, Mo Fenghua, am also a man. I was humiliated by Fan Su and almost lost my life in his hands. If I don't take revenge, how can I live in this world? Xianlingzi shook his head and sighed. Although your courage is commendable, the gap between you and Fan Su is so big, and your cultivation talent. Don't mess around, just do according to grandfather's arrangement. If he couldn't convince Xianlingzi, it would be difficult to obtain powerful techniques, abilities, and cultivation resources. With Mo Fenghua's previous misdeeds, it would be difficult to make Xianlingzi believe him. Su Fang glanced at Mo Yuntian from the corner of his eyes, and suddenly had an idea. He said to Xianlingzi, Grandfather, Mo Yuntian's talent is not bad, why don't you set him as a target? Give me 1,000 years, if I can defeat him within 1,000 years, you let me challenge Fan Su, how about that? Mo Yuntian was startled, and then sneered in his heart, although my talent is not as good as Fan Su's, it's still one of the top in the entire Kuan Su divine sect. You idiot trash, you think you can defeat me within 1,000 years? Mo Yuntian smiled and said, Young Lord's talent is extraordinary. However, wanting to defeat me within 1,000 years is clearly not too likely. Why not choose an even lower target, cultivation level below 3rd firmament true God will do. Su Fang said domineeringly, I think it's best to use you as a stepping stone. Stepping stone? Mo Yuntian's heart burned with anger. To be used as a stepping stone by an idiot trash, to him, it was simply a great humiliation. At this time, Uncle Chong suddenly said, Sovereign, this old servant has something to say. Xianlingzi raised his white eyebrows, and said majestically, Speak. Uncle Chong changed to soul transmission. Young Master has obtained a fortuitous encounter on this trip to the cloudy divine realm. Perhaps there really is a glimmer of hope to defeat Fan Su. Then, Uncle Chong told Xianlingzi what Su Fang said to him before. There's actually such a thing? Xianlingzi was surprised and overjoyed. Previously, he was pressured by various parties and worried about his grandson's safety, so he did not carefully check Su Fang at all. Now, hearing Uncle Chong say that his grandson was only at the mortal evolution state at this time, but he actually had the divine body of a 9th sky true god. How could he not be surprised and overjoyed? Xianlingzi's eyes emitted a divine light as if he could see through all the mysteries in the world. He sized up Su Fang's body for a long time. Su Fang's current body was already at the height of the heavenly god realm and not the true god realm. However, he had already sealed most of his blood qi with the life-shrinking technique and the power of the world in his body. The blood qi that leaked out was also at the 6th sky of true god realm. Even Xinjia Tianjun could not sense Su Fang's true background, let alone Xianlingzi. The heavenly Tao has opened its eyes. This time, the heavenly Tao has really opened its eyes. Even a salted fish has a day of turning over, ha ha. Xianlingzi saw that Su Fang's divine body was also at the 9th sky of true God realm. He was immediately overjoyed and comforted. He laughed out loud and even spoke incoherently. Whoosh! Xianlingzi flipped his hand and shot out 2 xianguang, which stopped in front of Su Fang. In one xianguang there was a yellow token. On it there was a picture of Kuan Su Mountain formed by heaven marks. This token was Xianlingzi's Xian Ling Dojo sovereign token. The other xianguang was an earth-type godhead. Its quality had reached the mid-grade Earth level. A godhead of such quality was definitely considered a supreme treasure in a small realm like the Kuan-Su divine realm. Heaven-level godhead. There were very few overlords of large realms who could possess heaven-level godheads. Deities of small realms were not qualified to obtain it at all. Even Fan-Su only had an earth-level godhead at most. Take Grandpa's token and this godhead. Go to the lowest level of the Kuan-Su divine realm. I'll give you 100 years. If you can fuse with the godhead and ascend to true God, Grandpa will allow you to challenge Mo Yuntian 1,000 years later. Xianlingzi glanced at Su Fang with eyes full of expectation. Then his figure flashed and disappeared from the hall. Chapter 1845. A mid-grade Earth-level godhead was enough to make people jealous. The opportunity to cultivate in Kuan-Su's godly realm made people jealous to the extreme. Kuan-Su's godly realm. It was the supreme holy land of cultivation in Kuan-Su's godly realm. It was actually a 13-layer space created with a godly array around the world origin of Kuan-Su's godly realm. The 12 upper layers had an abundance of heaven and earth's natural aura. The effect of cultivation was naturally incomparable to the outside world. The lower the layer, the better the effect of cultivation. Only the elders of Kuan-Su's godly sect and special disciples who had made great contributions to the sect were qualified to enter the upper 12 layers. The lowest layer, the 13-layer space, did not cultivate the natural aura, but the aura of the essence of the world. It cultivated the power of the world. Only the big shots of the godly sect like Kuan-Su, the great elder, and the sovereign of the dojo were qualified to cultivate in the lowest layer. There was also a time limit. Xianlingzi was the sovereign of the Xianling dojo and had a close relationship with Kuan-Su. He only had 100 years of cultivation time every 10 million years. It could be seen how precious the opportunity to cultivate in Kuan-Su's godly realm was. In order to fuse with the godhead and ascend to the true godly realm, he actually let his grandson enter the lowest layer of Kuan-Su's godly realm. It was simply a waste of precious resources and such a precious opportunity. Xianlingzi's doting towards his grandson was simply to the point of making people furious. Not only special disciples like Mo Yuntian, but even the upper echelons of the dojo looked at the godhead and token in Su Fang's hand with shining eyes. They could not wait to swallow Su Fang in one gulp. Luo sighed in Su Fang's body. You have a chaos-level godhead, so an earth-level godhead is naturally nothing. However, to be able to fuse with the godhead in the world origin of a small realm, the compatibility between you and the godhead will reach a perfect height. In any godly realm, the world origin is the most important place. Especially in a small realm like Kuan-Su's godly realm, the world origin is very thin. There are not many opportunities to cultivate around the world origin. Although Xianlingzi's strength is average, he really treats you well. Xianlingzi is good to Mo Fenghua, not me. Su Fang corrected Luo, but if there is a chance in the future, I will definitely return the benefits I got from Xianlingzi. A mid-grade Earth-rank godhead and the opportunity to enter Kuan-Su's divine realm originally belonged to me, Mo Yuntian. But now it was wasted by a piece of trash. It's already a miracle that he could fuse with even half of the Earth-rank godhead. Kuan-Su's opportunity to cultivate at the bottom of the divine realm is a pure waste to him. I have Kun's cultivation talent in vain. I cultivate diligently, but I can't get the corresponding cultivation resources. And this piece of trash, what right does he have to enjoy these? Why is the heavenly Tao so unfair to me? Since that's the case, I'll go plunder. I'll try to kill this trash and become the young master of Xianling Dojo. Everything he enjoys will belong to me. Mo Yuntian stared at the token and godhead. At first, he felt a strong sense of jealousy, but soon after, it turned into a strong killing intent. Su Fang grasped the heavenly mystery life shrinking technique and the heavenly mystery solution, these two supreme divine abilities. He was very sensitive to danger. He immediately sensed Mo Yuntian's killing intent. Su Fang smiled faintly. He ignored Mo Yuntian and strode out of the palace with Count Chong. Young master, why did you take such a big risk to save this old servant this time? If you lose even a strand of your head, this old servant's lowly life can't bear it. As soon as they walked out of the main hall, Count Chong said shakily, looking like he was about to shed tears of gratitude. Su Fang said, Count Chong, you're loyal and devoted to me. How can I let you bear the consequences for me? Young master, this old servant will definitely go through water and tread on fire for you in the future. My body and bones are ground to dust. Su Fang's words made Count Chong's tears immediately flow down his old face. At this time, a primordial spirit transmitted to Su Fang, after experiencing a life and death situation, I didn't expect you to actually learn how to buy people's hearts. You're really not simple. It turned out to be Ling Xiangmei. She swayed her incomparably alluring waist and walked towards Su Fang. Elder Ling. Count Chong hurriedly retreated far away. Su Fang called out, Aunt Mei! Your mouth has also become sweet. Ling Xiangmei said with a chuckle. However, in the next moment, her eyes exuded coldness. Is Aunt Mei's undergarments pretty? Pretty. Ah, they're not pretty. That. I won't dare to do it again next time. Su Fang felt his scalp go numb. He secretly cursed Mo Fenghua countless times as a bastard. He even dared to steal an elder's undergarment. You still want to do it again? A fragrant wind assaulted him. Su Fang immediately felt powerless. Even moving a finger was incomparably difficult. Immediately after, Su Fang felt a sharp pain in his ears. Even his soul twitched. He was in so much pain that he wanted to die. This old lady is your father's woman. Although that damned bastard refuses to admit it, it's the truth. You little bastard, you even dare to covet this old lady's beauty? No wonder your essence was sucked dry by a woman in the turbid cloud realm, and you almost lost your life. If you dare to do it again, this old lady will find a group of demon foxes and let you have your fill. Take these pills. They'll be useful for fusing with the Godhead. If you can't fuse with the Godhead in Kuan Su within 100 years, this old lady will skin you alive. Ling Xiangmei snorted. With a wave of her long sleeve, she swept out a Xian Guang. A storage ring flew towards Su Fang. Then, she soared into the sky. Su Fang rubbed his ears and smiled helplessly. When his consciousness entered the storage ring's space, Su Fang was immediately overjoyed. In the storage ring's space, there were surprisingly 10,000 low-grade divine essence pills. In addition, there were many pills for recovering blood energy, condensing divine essence, and opening up divine palaces. The news of Mo Fenghua divorcing Xia Yunji and challenging the Sanskrit's young master Fan Su, as well as the matter of him stealing a female cultivator's undergarments, spread throughout the entire Kuan Su divine Tao on the same day. In everyone's impression, Mo Fenghua was a complete piece of trash. He actually divorced Xia Yunji, causing everyone to think that he was arrogant. As for the matter of him challenging Fan Su, it was completely treated as a joke. Moreover, it was the most ridiculous joke in the history of Kuan Su's divine Tao. As for Mo Fenghua's bad habits, it caused public indignation. It caused him to become the public enemy of the entire Kuan Su divine sect's female disciples. The next day, Su Fang passed through the array and arrived in front of a cave near the peak of the Kuan Su divine sect. He prepared to enter Kuan Su's divine Tao to cultivate. Swish, 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 swish. Everyone's gazes fell on Su Fang. Some were mocking, some were furious, especially those female disciples. After knowing Su Fang's identity, they all gnashed their teeth and wished that they could swallow Su Fang to vent their anger. It wasn't only because Su Fang stole their undergarments. The main reason was because over 100 female disciples were ordered by someone to frame Mo Fenghua and were captured by the punishment hall. Xian Lingzi wasn't someone to be trifled with. Those female disciples dared to frame his grandson. No matter who ordered them, their fates were bleak. At the very least, they would be crippled of their divine palaces and expelled from Kuan Su divine sect. As for the divine nation's royal family, Xian Lingzi had already sent people to the divine sect yesterday. At this moment, the divine nation had already changed hands and the divine nation's emperor's head had already fallen to the ground. Because of this, all the female disciples of Kuan Su divine sect hated Su Fang. From their point of view, it must be this Silk Pants who toyed with those female disciples and used his power to capture them to the punishment hall. Sensing the fury of the female disciples, Su Fang could only bitterly smile. Mo Fenghua. Over a dozen Kuan Su divine sect disciples flew over on their swords. These disciples were clearly different from the others. Although their cultivation was at the true God realm, and they wore the yellow robes of the Kuan Su divine sect, there were all kinds of divine artifacts hanging on their bodies. Treasure light flickered and they gave off a noble aura. In Mo Fenghua's memories, there were memories of these disciples. These disciples were all overlords of various Tao palaces. Although their strength was average, they were the same as Mo Fenghua and had extraordinary identities. Mo Fenghua used to hang out with these people. Due to her lack of strength and her overflowing fat, she was often extorted by them. I heard that you were very impressive yesterday. You even dared to divorce Xia Yunji and even challenged Jiang Su. Amazing, truly amazing. A red disciple gave Su Fang a thumbs up and said with a grin. This person was the leader of the Silk Pan. His name was Dong Shanwei. His grandfather was one of the great elders of the Kuan Su divine sect. Su Fang walked towards the entrance of the cave. This trash is really arrogant. Not even giving face to Dong Shanwei's young master? Not getting beaten for a few days, your skin itches, is it? Over a dozen disciples rushed up and surrounded Su Fang. I heard that you obtained a middle-grade Earth-rank divine spark? Take it out. Dong Shanwei shouted domineeringly. Su Fang said shakily, the divine spark was bestowed by my grandfather. If I give it to you and my grandfather investigates, what should I do? Mentioning Xian Lingzi, these Silk Pants immediately showed fear. Xian Lingzi's protectiveness was famous in the Kuan Su divine Tao. Normally, when these people bullied Mo Fenghua and extorted some divine jade treasures, Mo Fenghua did not dare to tell her grandfather. Even if Xian Lingzi knew, he would not lower himself to the level of these brats. However, a middle-grade Earth-rank divine spark was different. If they really dared to take the divine spark, it would be strange if Xian Lingzi did not break their hands. Su Fang continued, how about I give you my grandfather's token? You take the token and enter the Kuan Su divine realm to cultivate? Who dares to take the Xian Ling sovereign's token? You trash dare to trick me? Dong Shanwei punched out, exploding with an unstoppable momentum, sending Su Fang flying over a dozen meters. Flesh and blood splattered from his chest and his bones shattered. Su Fang stood up shakily. The wound on his chest wriggled, and his bones also grew crazily, quickly recovering. Although he was not injured, he was actually bullied and humiliated by a group of cultivators of the lowest level. Su Fang had not experienced such a thing for many years. The anger in his heart could be imagined. I did not expect that I, Su Fang, would once again be reduced to a weak chicken being bullied and humiliated. Wait until I come out of the Kuan Su divine realm, I will definitely show you. Anger rose in Su Fang's heart. Whoosh! Dong Shanwei threw out a Xian Guang, a jade bottle covered with mysterious heavenly marks, and a rune talisman flew in front of Su Fang. Chapter 1846. Without powerful strength, identity and status are all empty. I must increase my strength as soon as possible. Otherwise, Mo Fenghua's identity will not only be of no help to me, but will instead bring me endless trouble. I really don't know how this hedonistic young master got along in the past. Su Fang was very helpless. However, his current strength was not enough, so he could only swallow his anger. The rune talisman contains the handprint to collect the world's essence. You trash, carefully ponder over it. 100 years later, this young master will be waiting for you here. If the Tao bottle is empty, or if you're discovered stealing the world's essence, you'll get it then. Trash, you've given this young master quite a bit of filial piety in the past. Originally, I didn't plan to make things difficult for you. However, your Xian Lingdao Sex Mo Yuntian paid quite a price to have this young master appear. Therefore, don't blame this young master for not giving face. If you want to blame someone, blame Mo Yuntian. Also, blame yourself for being trash. Dong Shanwei arrogantly pointed at Su Fang, then led the group of hedonistic young masters to leave. Who? A young man flew over, followed by 3 disciples. This young man was handsome and had a tall and straight figure. He was like a tall and straight mountain, carrying a supreme domineering aura. As for the 3 disciples behind him, they were all extraordinary. Looking at the divine runes on their Taoist robes, they were all special disciples of Kuan Su divine sect. Young Master Xia. Dong Shanwei immediately seemed to change into a different person as he nodded and bowed towards the handsome young man. The other hedonistic young masters all revealed fawning expressions, as if being able to speak with this young man was a supreme honor. When the disciples in the distance saw this young man, they all revealed reverence and fawning expressions. The eyes of the female disciples even lit up, revealing fanatical and worshipful expressions. Xia Qijuan? Su Fang searched for this name from Mo Fenghua's memories and couldn't help but frown. In Kuan Su divine sect, only Xia Qijuan could be respected as a young master. This was no ordinary person. He was the grandson of Kuan Su divine sect's leader, Kuan Su. Moreover, he was the eldest grandson. In the future, he might take over Kuan Su divine sect. Moreover, this person's cultivation talent was truly astonishing. In less than 10 million years of cultivation, his cultivation had already reached the astonishing height of peak 9th level mysterious heaven celestial god. It was precisely because of his status and talent that Xia Qijuan's position in Kuan Su's divine sect was higher than that of a special disciple. Even the elders were incomparably courteous when they saw him. Trouble has come again. Xia Qijuan was Xia Yunji's brother from the same mother. He divorced his sister yesterday, which was equivalent to slapping the Xia family's face. His appearance here today was obviously not a coincidence. Mo Fenghua. Xia Qijuan nodded towards Su Fang, and at the same time waved towards Dong Shanwei and the others. These hedonistic young masters immediately got out of the way like frightened flies. Your courage to challenge Jiang Su is commendable. I underestimated you before. Are you planning to enter Kuan Su's godly realm and fuse with the godhead? Coincidentally, this young master also wants to assail the 9th firmament celestial deity realm in Kuan Su's deity realm. Let's go together, Xia Qijuan said indifferently. His calm tone carried a domineering aura that could not be resisted. Inviting me to enter Kuan Su's deity realm together? Xia Qijuan definitely doesn't have good intentions. Su Fang was unable to refuse and raised his guard. Xia Qijuan and Su Fang walked into the cave side by side. The other 3 special disciples followed behind. Young Master Xia Qijuan actually wants to assail the peak 9th firmament celestial deity realm. As expected of the Xia family's young master, Kuan Su's divine sect's exceptional genius. Not only did young Master Xia Qijuan not make a move to deal with this trash Mo Fenghua, he even invited him to enter Kuan Su's deity realm together? Mo Fenghua, this trash, dared to humiliate Miss Xia Yunji. How could young Master Xia Qijuan let him off? Just wait and see. It would be strange if young Master Xia Qijuan didn't kill him. The disciples outside the cave discussed animatedly. They felt shock and admiration towards Xia Qijuan's talent, while they rejoiced in Su Fang's misfortune. This cave was precisely the entrance to Kuan Su's deity realm. There were a total of 13 divine arrays, leading to the 13th level of Kuan Su's deity realm space. When Su Fang and Xia Qijuan came in, there were quite a few special disciples and a few elders who were preparing to enter the deity realm space. Seeing Xia Qijuan, the managing elder of Kuan Su's deity realm came up to greet and asked politely, "Young Master Xia, you're planning to enter Kuan Su's deity realm?" Young Master Xia actually reached peak 9th firmament celestial deity realm. You're preparing to ascend to a higher level. Young Master Xia is indeed an exceptional genius. The elders and special disciples by the side were all shocked and exclaimed in surprise. Xia Qijuan smiled and nodded towards everyone in acknowledgement. He was elegant and had an extraordinary bearing. Then Xia Qijuan said to Su Fang, "I heard that Elder Xian Ling gave you the sovereign token to let you fuse with the divine spark at the lowest level of Kuan Su's deity realm and ascend to true God realm? Managing Elder, bring him into the deity array first." The managing elder said hesitantly, "Young Master Xia, only one person can enter Kuan Su's deity realm at a time. If you let Mo Fenghua enter first, you can only settle for the next best thing and enter the 12th level. Cultivating at the 12th level is much worse than the lowest level. Young Master Xia is at the critical moment of ascension. No matter." Xia Qijuan waved his hand. "Young Master Mo, why aren't you going?" The managing elder did not understand what Xia Qijuan's intentions were. He followed his words and brought Su Fang to the lowest level of Kuan Su's deity realm. What is Xia Qijuan trying to do? Su Fang could not guess Xia Qijuan's intentions. His brows furrowed, and he simply did not think too much about it, stepping into the deity array. Who knew that right at this moment? Xia Qijuan suddenly shouted coldly, "Audacious! This young master is about to enter the 13th level and assault peak celestial deity realm. You actually dare to seize this young master's opportunity. Mo Fenghua, could it be that you dare to not even place this young master, Kuan Su's divine sect, in your eyes?" Without waiting for Su Fang to react, Xia Qijuan coldly said to the managing elder, "Managing elder, this person has no respect for his seniors and ignores the divine sect's laws. What should be his punishment?" The managing elder was startled, but soon said imposingly, "Although this person has the sovereign's token and has the qualifications to enter Kuan Su's deity realm for 100 years, young Master Xia has the right to enter Kuan Su's deity realm first." Mo Fenghua actually dared to give young Master Xia a chance, which is tantamount to disobedience. According to the divine sect's laws, he should be stripped of his opportunity to enter Kuan Su's deity realm and be sent to the punishment hall for punishment. "Get the hell out here!" Xia Qijuan coldly shouted and struck out a seal. In a split second, Su Fang felt as if a mountain was pressing down on him. His entire body was shackled by the shocking earth god's might. Then, Xia Qijuan grabbed at the air and pulled Su Fang out of the deity array. With a flip of his right hand, a majestic force covered Su Fang's legs. Su Fang's legs were instantly shattered and his flesh was badly mangled. He fell straight to the ground. Su Fang gnashed his teeth and said, "Xia Qijuan, you're inverting right and wrong. You've gone too far. When has this young master ever inverted right and wrong?" Xia Qijuan smiled indifferently. Then, he looked at the surrounding elders and special disciples. Mo Fenghua is arrogant and overbearing. He stole this young master's opportunity to enter Kuan Su's deity realm. Did you all see it clearly? This seat saw with my own eyes that Mo Fenghua is arrogant and rude. He has no respect for his seniors, said the managing elder. The other elders and special disciples all nodded in agreement. Some of the special disciples, in order to curry favor with Xia Qijuan, even reprimanded Su Fang. Xia Qijuan walked over and looked down at Su Fang. He said coldly, "Mo Fenghua, who do you think you are? How dare you humiliate this young master's little sister? Today, I'm just giving you a light punishment. This young master wants you to know that Kuan Su's deity realm belongs to the Xia family. The Xia family is your sky. Your status as the young master of a training hall is nothing in front of this young master. If this young master is unhappy, not only can I take away your status, I can even take away your life. Xia Qijuan, today's humiliation has made me, Su Feng, understand the cruelty of the deity realm. I will never forget this and repay you tenfold in the end. Su Feng's eyes were cold. His heart was filled with fierce killing intent. Xia Qijuan didn't care about Su Feng at all. In his eyes, Su Feng was like a pile of mud. Even stepping on him would make him dirty. He calmly walked into the divine array and said to the managing elder, Mo Fenghua was rude to this young master, and this young master has already punished him. He also knows that he is guilty, so he took the initiative to give me the chance to cultivate in Kuan Su's deity realm for 100 years. Therefore, this young master will not pursue him any further and let him enter the 12th floor. The time will be deducted from this young master's name, so that when the time comes, the Black Tomb Sovereign will say that I am bullying the weak. Young Master Xia is really benevolent. The sovereign praised Xia Qijuan. Then, he formed a hand seal and released a divine seal. A blurry divine light flashed in the divine array. A spatial divine power swept out and teleported Xia Qijuan out. He disappeared without a trace. Su Feng took out 3 low-grade healing blood thaw pills from his profound jade ring. In front of everyone, he didn't dare to use his true body's ability. He could only use his blood qi to fuse with the pills to recover. When the elders and special disciples saw this, they either ignored him indifferently or sneered in disdain. In their eyes, Mo Fenghua was notorious in Kuan Su's divine sect. He was notorious for his misdeeds. It was only natural that he would be punished by Xia Qijuan. /////. After all, Su Feng had the powerful divine body of a heavenly god. His blood qi was vigorous, and his recovery ability was extremely strong. Originally, he only needed 1 breath to completely recover. In order to not attract attention, he used about 10 breaths of time to completely recover from the injury on his leg. The managing elder said coldly, Young Master Xia is benevolent. He gave you the chance to cultivate in Kuan Su's deity realm for 100 years. Why aren't you going in? Are you waiting for me to invite you in? Su Feng stepped into the divine array. The managing elder shouted coldly and released the divine seal in an instant. A divine light with the power of space enveloped Su Feng. Even if Xia Qijuan took away the chance to enter the lowest level, I can still fuse with a divine spark on the 12th level. Not only the mid-grade Earth Divine Spark, but also the Primal Chaos Divine Spark. After 100 years, when I leave Kuan Su's deity realm, Dong Shanwei, Mo Yuntian, Xia Qijuan, and Fan Su, I will deal with them one by one. Su Feng was angry and somewhat expectant as he was teleported out by the spatial divine power. Chapter 1847. Is this the 12th floor of Kuan Su's God's domain? Su Feng activated his perfect vision and saw that the space of the divine matrix was filled with interweaving marks. Traces of the natural aura of heaven and earth seeped out from the matrix, filling the space with dense spiritual energy. Inside the matrix, Su Feng felt like he was in water. The dense spiritual energy around him made him feel like water was flowing around him. Moreover, the matrix was filled with extremely pure earth-type natural spiritual energy, which gave Su Feng a feeling of thickness and vastness. There was also the aura of the great Tao of earth contained within. The spiritual energy was the natural essence of heaven and earth of the myriad world. It was higher than the macro world. Su Feng couldn't merge with it and couldn't control it. Therefore, Su Feng could only feel shackles. If he hadn't condensed a divine body, his body would have been crushed by the dense spiritual energy. Law said, "What an abundant earth-type natural spiritual energy. It's definitely more than enough to merge with the Earth-level mid-grade, Earth-type godhood. However, it's not enough to perfectly merge with the Chaos-level godhood. If it's the essence of the 13th floor, it's barely enough. Xia Qijuan. Su Fang's eyes flashed with a sharp cold light. You have the identity of Mo Fenghua now, but you still suffered such humiliation. If you fought from the bottom as an ascender, I'm afraid you would encounter even more bullying and humiliation. This is the myriad worlds. Even if you have heaven-defying talent, you have to endure humiliation and struggle to move forward. Only then will you have a chance to rise. Law, of course I understand. I will treat Xia Qijuan, Fan Su, and Mo Yuntian as my stepping stones. One day, I will trample them all under my feet. After ending the conversation with Law, Su Fang took out the godhood given to him by Xianlingzi. Su Fang had a total of 2 godhoods. He already had a plan, so he seemed to have a card up his sleeve. He didn't hesitate to open his mouth and suck the godhood into his body. In the matrix space of Kuan Su's god's domain, outsiders couldn't sense the situation inside. Therefore, Su Fang no longer concealed anything. He released the seal in his body and began to open his body, dantian, and divine apertures to merge with the godhood and welcome the purification of the godhood. Boom! Boom! It was like a drop of water falling into a sponge. The moment Su Fang opened up everything, the godhead immediately melted inside his body, and an explosive force swept through and surged within his body. The godhead contained the pure natural spiritual energy of the universe, high-grade life energy, and the mysterious and ethereal heavenly Tao laws. Since Su Fang had already condensed a divine body, and it was a divine body that had reached the heavenly God realm, the marrow cleansing of his body was not that shocking. However, under the effect of the earth divine power, Su Fang's body became even more tenacious, like the earth that could bear all things. It became even more vast and heavy, and the life force and the ability to nourish life became even more powerful. At the same time, this marrow cleansing also gave Su Fang the innate ability to bear and control the earth elemental power of nature in the myriad world. This was an important function of the godhood. The changes inside the divine aperture were even greater. Astonishing divine power, life energy, and heavenly Tao laws swept from his body into the divine aperture in his mind, and the divine aperture's barrier was quickly replaced by divine power. This energy poured into his brain, forming extremely weak magic power. At the same time, the life energy and divine power poured into his young immortal, bringing about a shocking transformation to his primordial spirit. Su Fang felt as if he had ascended to a higher level. There was also a faintly discernible heavenly Tao laws of earth that fused into his primordial spirit consciousness. Su Fang was still unable to comprehend and control it. However, it had truly become a part of him, becoming his innate ability. In the future, as long as he continued to cultivate and comprehend it, it would transform into the ability to communicate and control nature. In order to completely fuse with the Godhead, Su Fang also activated the power of Yin and Yang, filling his body and divine aperture with a kind of Yin and Yang divine power. The demigod experts of the great world and the extraordinary cultivators of the myriad worlds were limited by their innate ability, physique, and the height of the great Tao they cultivated. They were unable to completely fuse with the Godhead. The higher the quality of the Godhead, the harder it was to fuse with it. Being able to fuse with 50% of the Godhead was already impressive. If one could fuse with 90% of the Godhead, they would be a peerless genius. In the future, their cultivation of this great Tao would definitely be astounding. Su Fang's Yin and Yang power could fuse with any energy in the universe, whether it was demonic qi or demonic qi. Coupled with Su Fang's perfected body that had already reached the heavenly God realm, fusing with this mid-grade Earth-rank Godhead was naturally easy. 10%, 30%, 50%. It was only after 90% of the Godhead's fusion that the speed gradually slowed down. However, it was still fusing with a deeper level. Around 30 years later, Su Fang, who was fully focused on fusing with the Godhead, suddenly felt a familiar movement in his body. Su Fang was pleasantly surprised. He immediately peeled off a yang immortal and sent it into his inner world. It turned out that it was the 55th yang meridian, and it had actually formed successfully. The inner world turned into the Tao Palace of heaven and earth formed by the 54 yang meridians and the world tree. All the yang meridians of the sixth transformation continuously poured yang power into the condensing yang meridian. How many years has it been? The first yang meridian of the seventh transformation has finally been born. It's too difficult. The 9 suns' 9 transformations was too heaven-defying. It was suppressed and rejected by the great world. Ever since Su Fang successfully stepped into the sixth transformation, no matter how much he cultivated and how much yang power he consumed, it was still difficult for him to form a new yang meridian. Unexpectedly, when fusing with the Godhead, he unexpectedly formed a 55th yang meridian. It was truly an unexpected surprise. With the birth of this yang meridian, Su Fang's overall strength would definitely increase by a large margin. At the same time, it also meant that Su Fang's speed of improvement would also increase. The pure yang power brought about by cultivating the 9 suns' 9 transformations would definitely far surpass that of the great world. In the future, when the yang meridian was formed, his cultivation technique would also metamorphose to the level of the myriad world. The birth of a yang meridian this time had little to do with condensing the Godhead or fusing with the Godhead. It was mainly due to the long period of accumulation and precipitation in the great world. Su Fang began to use the 9 suns' 9 transformations to form the 55th yang meridian. It was not until about 3 years later that the yang meridian calmed down and completely turned into a jade-like yang meridian. Then, the newly born yang meridian automatically moved and fused with one end of the 54th yang meridian of the yin-yang Tao wheel. This way, the yin-yang Tao wheel was made up of 55 yang meridian and became even more profound. Whether it was the quality or quantity of the yang power, it underwent a great transformation. After more than a year, Su Fang recovered the yang power he had used to form the 55th yang meridian. Only then did he realize that he had fused 99% of the mid-grade Earth-level Godhead. The rest were useless impurities that were difficult to fuse. Suddenly, from Su Fang's divine aperture, a deep and empty aura surged out. It was not shackled by the array, spiritual chi, or anything else and dissipated between heaven and earth. After a while, a surge of empty ascension power surged from the sky and descended. It instantly passed through the void and enveloped Su Fang. Fusing with the Godhead only meant that he had the talent of a deity, but it did not mean that he had become a deity. Only after passing the first chaotic divine tribulation would it mean that he had passed the test of the heavenly path and become a true deity, possessing the power of the universe. Perhaps Su Fang had gone through the test of the divine tribulation in the big world, so there was no chaotic divine tribulation this time. Instead, the origin chi of heaven and earth directly descended and turned into a shocking ascension power that swept through and exploded in his body and divine aperture. Su Fang's yang deity began to burn and released the shocking power of his primordial spirit. The yang deity seemed to be shedding its skin. Layers of deity patterns surged out from the inside and quickly shattered. The yang deity seemed to have been reborn and became more real, like a second Su Fang. A mysterious pattern appeared. It was not a deity pattern, but a divine pattern that contained the law of the heavenly path, which was the mark of the heavens. Yang God. At this moment, Su Fang's divine aperture was no longer a yang deity, but a yang God that only deities had. After condensing the divine body, the yang deity transformed into a yang God. This meant that Su Fang had finally become a deity. However, there was one last important step, which was to open the divine palace and condense the true chi of a deity. This true qi was called divine essence. Su Fang could not control the ascension power. Not only did his yang deity transform into a yang god, but his dantian, golden core, and meridians also underwent tremendous changes. His meridians that connected to his dantian quickly became blurry under the effect of the ascension power. His dantian also disintegrated and turned into nothingness, turning into a vast and boundless void. This was the difference between a deity, a mortal cultivator, and an immortal. The disintegration of the dantian and meridians into a vast energy space was the divine palace of a deity. The meridians and dantian transformed, and the golden core origin also underwent shocking changes. First, the heavenly cave collapsed layer by layer. Then, the golden core disintegrated and turned into a nebula-like whirlpool. The divine palace was like the starry sky, and the whirlpool formed by the golden core origin was the star whirlpool in the starry sky. Of course, this was just the transformation of the divine palace. As Su Fang's cultivation increased, the divine palace also formed. Just as the divine palace was formed, the star whirlpool began to rotate slowly under the effect of a mysterious force. A force that connected with the nature of heaven and earth was released and extracted the essence of heaven and earth from it. In an instant, in the formation space of Kuan Su's 12th level of the divine realm, the extremely rich essence of heaven and earth poured into Su Fang's body. Under the effect of the ascension power, the essence of heaven and earth entered the divine palace and was quickly assimilated and then absorbed by the star whirlpool. As the star whirlpool rotated, it compressed the essence of heaven and earth and finally turned it into the power that belonged to Su Fang. The divine power that came from the fusion of this low-level body and the high-level power of heaven and earth was divine essence. Chapter 1848. At the peak of Kuan Su Mountain. In the misty clouds there was a pavilion. In the pavilion 3 elders were sipping tea. Xian Lingzi and the yellow-browed great elder sat opposite each other. Sitting on the seat was a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 50s. This person had a square face, his eyes were bright and spirited. Sitting there, he gave off a broad and steady feeling, just like the great Kuan Su mountain beneath him. His breath was empty, and he felt as if he had merged with the Kuan Su god realm. Master Kuan Su. Xian Lingzi seemed to be leisurely sipping tea, but in fact, he released his sensing power from time to time. Su Fang was bullied by Dong Shanwei outside Kuan Su god realm, and then was wantonly humiliated by Xia Qijuan. Xian Lingzi sensed all of this clearly. The yellow-browed elder glanced at Xian Lingzi, his deep eyes flashing with schadenfreude. He was the great elder of Kuan Su god sect, and his status was slightly higher than Xian Lingzi's. However, in terms of personal relationship with Kuan Su, the yellow-browed elder was far inferior to Xian Lingzi. At this time, Xian Lingzi's grandson and Kuan Su's descendant had a falling out, and he was naturally happy to see it happen. The yellow-browed old man smiled and said, "Xian Ling, that grandson of yours has been spoiled by you. Letting him suffer some losses is also beneficial and harmless. In front of the leader, why do you have to put on a sullen expression?" Kuan Su master said lightly, "It's just a child fooling around, don't take it to heart." The yellow-browed elder then said sarcastically, "Yesterday, Mo Fenghua was so overbearing, so unscrupulously humiliating Miss Xia Yunji. In Kuan Su god sect, who dares to do that? Today, let him suffer a little, and it can be considered a lesson for him." Xian Lingzi was furious, and drank the tea in one gulp. Kuan Su master waved his long sleeve, and a table appeared in front of him. On the table was a black and white chess game, and he began to play chess with the yellow-browed elder. In the blink of an eye 30 years had passed, and the two of them had yet to finish their game of chess. At this time, after Su Fang fused with the Godhead, he attracted the chaos divine tribulation. It could only be considered as half of the chaos divine tribulation. There was no divine tribulation, only the aura of the heavenly Tao descended on Kuan Su's realm of the gods. It went straight to Kuan Su's realm of the gods inside the giant mountain. Kuan Su master raises his eyebrows, showing a surprised expression. The three of them were all peerless experts in the divine world, Kuan Su. Naturally, they could tell that this heavenly Tao Qi was caused by the ascension of a true god. Without a special identity, one naturally would not have the qualifications to become a true god in Kuan Su's deity realm. Other than Mo Fenghua, there was no one else. What was even more shocking was that, judging from the scale of the descending earth element energy, it was a mid-grade earth-rank godhead that had almost completely fused together. In other words, Mo Fenghua had fused 99% of her earth-rank godhead. Such talent could be considered as a rarity in Kuan Su's divine Tao. Only 30 years have passed, and Fenghua actually succeeded in ascending. Moreover, the degree of fusion is so high. Xianlingzi was surprised and happy. All the gloominess from before immediately disappeared without a trace. This kid has finally fought for me. The yellow-browed old man poured cold water on Xianlingzi. Mo Fenghua can fuse with a mid-grade earth-rank godhead in 30 years? And a height of 90% and above? Xianlingzi, don't make a mistake. When the time comes, not only will you be happy for nothing, it will also increase the ridicule of others. Xianlingzi thought of all the things his precious grandson had done in the past. For a moment, he did not dare to be sure. However, his mouth was still incomparably unyielding. My grandson, although a little mischievous, his talent is extraordinary. Who else could it be other than him who just ascended? Kuan Su's realm of the gods. Inside the 12th formation space, Su Fang's newly formed realm of the gods was madly absorbing the natural spiritual energy of heaven and earth with the help of the ascension force that had yet to disperse. At the same time, he also urged the power of yin and yang to fuse with the spiritual energy. Everything was born from yin and yang. The fusion of pure yang and pure yin represented the supreme law of yin and yang. Any energy would naturally be fused by yin and yang. Therefore, the energy of the universe no longer pressured Su Fang at all. The speed of absorption and the speed of condensing divine essence naturally became faster, far surpassing that of ordinary cultivators. The divine essence condensed for the first time in the star vortex was several times more vast than that of ordinary cultivators. Even the star vortex was a size bigger. This continued for about 10 days before the ascension force completely disappeared. Su Fang discovered that his entire person was very different. There was a mysterious mark in the realm of the gods and star vortex. There was also one outside the divine aperture. They intertwined together like a barrier protecting the realm of the gods and divine aperture. This was the heavenly mark that a god had obtained, the recognition of the heavenly Tao. The heavenly mark that the heavenly Tao imprinted in the god's body contained the aura of the heavenly Tao's law. The first layer of the true God realm was usually called the first layer of the true God realm. He had finally become a god, and could be considered to have some strength in the universe. Su Fang was very happy. This was something that countless cultivators in the great world, and also something that Su Fang had dreamed of. Today, his dream had finally come true. How could he not be happy? Just becoming a god is far from enough. My goal is to surpass all difficulties and obstacles, just like in the great world and the small world, and finally reach the highest peak in the universe. If an ordinary god had such thoughts, they would definitely be laughed at and scoffed at. However, Su Fang was different. This was because he had the world in his body and a primal chaos godhead. This also meant that Su Fang had the ability to communicate with the primal chaos. Thus, he had the qualifications to surpass the Realm Lord, Domain Lord, and Divine Lord. He had all the possibilities. I might as well fuse with this primal chaos godhead here in one go. Su Fang made a decision in his heart. His eyes revealed incomparable anticipation. Then, Su Fang asked Law worriedly, Law, if I fuse with the primal chaos godhead here, will there be any commotion that will attract the attention of others or even Shinja Tianjun? Our Azura Divine clan's cultivation method is different from yours. Moreover, I have never heard of the primal chaos godhead before. According to my speculations, fusing with the primal chaos godhead will definitely cause some abnormalities. However, you can rest assured that the primal chaos also represents the heavenly Tao and encompasses everything. At the same time, it is also the most mysterious and unfathomable. Only the legendary existence who controls the heavenly Tao of the universe can sense it. Even if others sense it, they will not be able to deduce anything. Moreover, Kuan Su's God realm is where the upper echelons of Kuan Su's Archaean sect cultivate. The formation has the power to obscure senses, so no one will be able to sense you. If you use the life-shrinking technique to obscure the aura of destiny, let alone Shinja Tianjun, even those domain lords will only be able to deduce some clues at most. They will not be able to discover it is you, so you can rest assured and fuse with the primal chaos godhead. Law's words put Su Fang at ease. After fusing with the godhead, I will need a large amount of spirit chi and world energy. With my current status, it will be difficult to find a suitable place to fuse with the primal chaos godhead. If I don't take this opportunity to fuse with it in Kuan Su's God realm, who knows when I will have another chance. The only thing I can do now is to take a little risk. Su Fang no longer had any misgivings. He took out a large amount of pills from his profound jade ring and shattered the insides of his body, turning it into a state of blood and water. He madly swallowed the pills, adjusting all his energy, true chi, and life energy to the peak state. Then he sat down cross-legged and used the true text of the mysterious solution to deduce and capture the moment when the heavenly Tao was most beneficial to him. At the same time, Su Fang activated his purple chi Dharma spirit, allowing supreme luck to envelop his body and obtain the protection of the heavenly Tao through the purple chi Dharma spirit. In order to fuse with the primal chaos godhead, Su Fang could be said to have calculated every detail meticulously. About 3 years later, Su Fang suddenly opened his eyes, then stood up and set up the life-shrinking technique runes around the formation space. Bind! Su Fang clasped his hands together and the talisman of the Tianji life-shortening technique broke at the same time. The power of the Tianji life-shortening technique to conceal the aura silently exploded in the formation space and concealed the aura of the entire formation space of the 12th level of the Kuan Su Divine Realm. At this time, Su Fang took out the primal chaos godhead from his inner world and floated in front of him. Then Su Fang integrated his blood chi, divine essence, primordial spirit, and everything else into his inner world. His entire body turned into a real world outside the real world. Su Fang had long planned to fuse with the godhead given by Xian Lingzi and cultivate his Dantian and golden core origin into a spiritual abode, becoming an energy space. The most important thing was the inner world. Naturally, he would use the inner world to fuse with the primal chaos godhead. In this way, Su Fang's inner world was equivalent to having 2 energy spaces. One was the spiritual abode of other gods, and the inner world was the independent world of the Yu spiritual abode. Before truly rising, Su Fang would not expose the inner world unless it was a matter of life and death. Instead, he would show it to others with the spiritual abode. It would not be too late to fuse the spiritual abode with the inner world when he became a true expert in the universe. A wave of world divine aura wrapped around the primal chaos godhead. The godhead melted quickly, like a sweet rain that soaked all things, seeping into the inner world that Su Fang had created. This primal chaos godhead seemed to be tailor-made for Su Fang. It quickly fused with the inner world, causing Su Fang's inner world to be filled with a mysterious and rich aura of the Great Path. It had an additional heavenly way aura that encompassed many great paths and the truths of the universe, as well as a connection with the heavenly way of the universe. Another 10 years passed. A wave of void chi spread out between heaven and earth. The wonderful feeling that he had when he was trying to break through to the God realm in the outer world appeared again. Su Fang felt that he had transcended all the restraints and shackles, traveled through endless time and space, and arrived at the beginning of the universe, the moment when all life had not yet been born. This time, Su Fang understood that this mysterious height surpassed the God realm and the stars. It was the most profound place in the universe, primal chaos. There was a wonderful resonance between the heavenly way and Su Fang. A mysterious and void chi shrouded heaven and earth, and an incomparably vast galaxy appeared in the depths of the firmament. This galaxy exuded a mysterious aura that contained the supreme heavenly way. Moreover, it felt like it was resonating with the inner world that Su Fang had created, and there was an extremely mysterious connection between it and the heavenly way. It wanted to project and brand a trace of the heavenly way into Su Fang's inner world. A strange phenomenon has appeared in the sky. Could it be that a precious treasure has appeared? Chapter 1849. This scene is so similar to the celestial phenomenon that appeared when Su Fang was trying to break through to the God realm in the big world. Could it be that Su Fang is integrating with the Supreme Godhead and triggered the heavenly Tao phenomenon? In the cloudy divine world, Shinja Tianjun flew high into the sky. Looking at the mysterious heavenly Tao phenomenon, he was shocked and his eyes flashed with a terrifying light. If it's really Su Fang, I'll make sure you have nowhere to hide. Shinja Tianjuan's eyes shot out golden light as he looked at the depths of the sky. He wanted to find Su Fang from the place where the supreme heavenly Tao aura descended. Bang! The golden light in Shinja Tianjuan's eyes suddenly burned, and he let out a shrill scream. The heavenly Tao was unpredictable. With Shinja Tianjuan's strength, it was difficult for him to guess the heavenly Tao of all the worlds in the universe. He immediately suffered a backlash from the heavenly Tao, and his eyes were burned to ashes. It can't be Su Fang. Even if Su Fang was lucky enough to escape from the transformation Supreme Tao stage, he couldn't have escaped from the cloudy divine world with his strength that just ascended. Who is this person? Su Fang, if it's really you, when I catch you, I'll strip you of your godhead, tear you into pieces, pull out your tendons and skin you alive. Shinja Tianjun roared angrily like an injured ferocious beast. Kuan-Su's divine world, at the peak of a giant mountain. Kuan-Su Shangren, Xianlingzi, and the yellow-browed old man all looked up at the sky. They were also extremely shocked. The three of them were all experts in the Kuan-Su's divine world, and Master Kuan-Su was the master of a small world. However, they had never seen such a phenomenon before, and were shocked and in awe. Maybe it's a peerless giant who cultivated some supreme magic that caused such a shocking phenomenon. Such a person is definitely not someone we can speculate about. Kuan-Su recovered from his shock and continued to play chess. Suddenly, a supreme heavenly Tao aura descended from the sky and landed in Kuan-Su's god realm. Could it be that there's a peerless giant hidden in Kuan-Su's realm of the gods? Could it be that he cultivated a supreme divine ability and caused the celestial phenomenon? Master Kuan-Su's hand trembled, and a chess piece turned into ashes. Let me see who this person is. The yellow-browed old man was shocked. His hands formed a mysterious and complicated seal as he tried to deduce. Who would have thought that the handprint was not completed yet? An invisible and terrifying force swept over and forcefully interrupted the yellow-browed old man's deduction. Moreover, there was a supreme power of the heavenly Tao that suddenly pressed down on his body. Poof! The yellow-browed old man opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His life aura instantly withered. Xianlingzi said in shock, "Leader, the expression on Master Kuan-Su's face changed. Silence." Before his voice fell, in the void around the pavilion, there was a faint sound of thunder. The supreme heavenly Tao aura permeated the surroundings. The three of them were frightened and did not dare to move at all. They did not even dare to think about the scene just now. Otherwise, they would be punished by the heavens. After a long time, the terrifying heavenly Tao aura gradually dissipated. The three of them let out a long sigh of relief. However, when they thought about it carefully, they could not remember what had happened just now that would make them feel so scared. However, they could still vaguely guess that the heavenly Tao did not want them to know what had happened just now. Or rather, they were not qualified to know. They had to suppress this matter in their hearts. They did not even dare to think about it. Whether it was the punishment of the heavenly Tao or the peerless figure who could attract such a shocking heavenly Tao aura, they were not people they could provoke. Kuan Su was at the bottom of the God realm. The 13th floor was different from the other array spaces. In the array space, bright starlight flickered as if they were in the galaxy. The array space here was not filled with natural spiritual qi, but with the world's origin that was more advanced than spiritual qi. Xia Qijuan was currently at the critical moment of impacting the 9th firmament celestial God realm and ascending to a higher level. Xia Qijuan will definitely be able to surpass the celestial God realm in one go this time. Kuan Su is the #1 prodigy of the divine world. No one can surpass him. Kuan Su, how can the realm lord of a small realm like the divine world be my Xia Qijuan's ultimate goal? I'll definitely surpass Grandpa one day and become the realm lord of a large realm. I'll even become that high and mighty region lord. Xia Qijuan had a proud look on his face, carrying a supreme domineering aura. He was full of hesitation. Impact after impact. Advancement is now. Xia Qijuan broke through the peak in one go. The chaos divine tribulation was about to appear. It was also at this time that Su Fang fused with the chaos divine spark, causing the heavenly Tao to resonate. Compared to the heavenly Tao phenomenon caused by Su Fang, what did Xia Qijuan's chaos divine tribulation count as? It was merely a drop of water in the vast ocean. Xia Qijuan's chaos divine tribulation was directly covered, vanishing without a trace. Xia Qijuan naturally could not feel any aura. His connection with the heavenly Tao was cut off. The mysterious advancement power that surged in his body also disappeared without a trace. As a result, Xia Qijuan fell back to the peak 9th firmament celestial deity level again. Damn it, what's going on? This kind of feeling was like the bridal chambers night, when swords were drawn and bows were bent, just reaching the doorway when it suddenly collapsed, making Xia Qijuan surprised, depressed, and also furious. At the same time, in the 12th array formation space, the heavenly Tao aura already descended into the world that Su Fang transformed into, then fused with the world. In an instant, Su Fang felt like he obtained the recognition of the heavenly Tao. His communication and perception of the world's nature, world power, and heavenly Tao laws became sharper, as if he was the darling of the heavenly Tao. This was the benefit that the Chaos Divine Spark brought to him. After fusing with the Chaos Divine Spark, it was equivalent to Su Fang fusing with the heavenly Tao law's profundities in the Divine Spark. Furthermore, it was a boundless profundities that encompassed everything. Then, the Chaos Divine Spark caused Su Fang's world to resonate with the world, causing the heavenly Tao aura to descend, causing Su Fang's world to become even deeper, filled with the supreme heavenly Tao aura, and filled with heavenly marks that contained the supreme heavenly Tao's mysterious profundities. Some of the problems in his cultivation in the past suddenly became clear at this moment. Even the entire heavenly Tao was no longer as mysterious in his heart as before. Moreover, within the Chaos Divine Spark and the descending heavenly Tao aura, there were traces of faint but incomparably mysterious chaos aura, causing Su Fang's world to rapidly transform. The energy and aura that permeated the world were undergoing a qualitative change under the influence of these traces of chaos aura. I didn't expect that fusing with the Chaos Divine Spark would be so easy. With the Chaos Divine Spark, I can comprehend and control all the supreme talent of the great Tao laws. Not only has it become easier to absorb world power, but I also have the ability to absorb chaos energy. Chaos energy is the essence of the world's origin. I don't have the chance to absorb it at all. However, absorbing world power is a piece of cake. Su Fang recovered his physical body and prepared to absorb world power to strengthen the world in his body. Mai Zhenqi has already transformed into divine origin energy, and the world power of the world tree has also been raised to the level of the myriad world. I should be able to use the ethereal true scripture to absorb world power. Su Fang decided to give the ethereal true scripture a try. If he could use it in the myriad worlds, then the speed of his cultivation and the world in his body would be as shocking as when he was in the great world. First, he fused the aura of the world tree with his divine origin energy. Then, he formed the ethereal true scripture hand seal and released all of his world power and divine origin energy into the 12th formation space. A Tenjiang domain covered by the might of the ethereal true scripture was formed. As Mai Zhenqi and world of Yin-Yang grow stronger, the ethereal true scripture can be used in the myriad worlds as well. The ethereal true scripture is actually so miraculous. The essence of the ethereal true scripture was void and reality. After using the ethereal true scripture, Su Fang's world of yin-yang and divine origin energy were released into the outside world, turning them into nothingness. Then, through the ethereal true scripture hand seal, the ethereal true scripture would fuse the world power and divine origin energy with the world power in the outside world. Come! The world power fused with the ethereal true scripture in the formation space of the Kuan Su divine mirror distorted for a moment before being absorbed into the world tree in Su Fang's body. In an instant, the world power in the formation space was reduced by half. As soon as the world power in the formation space became empty, more and more world power surged in from the surroundings. Su Fang's sharp senses told him that a small portion of the world power contained the aura of Kuan Su's divine world. So the world power in the 12th formation space of the Kuan Su divine mirror is connected to the 13th formation space at the bottom of the formation space. Even if I'm here, I can still absorb Kuan Su's divine world's origin energy. Due to the obstruction of the formation, the absorption speed is too slow according to the method just now. However, I've mastered the ethereal 10,000 laws Tao. Absorbing Kuan Su's divine world's origin energy is not only to increase my world power, but more importantly, I have to take back what originally belonged to me from Xia Qijuan's hands. Su Fang's eyes flashed with decisiveness and viciousness. He was such a person. Whoever bullied him, he would return it 10 times over. Although he had no choice but to endure it sometimes, as long as there was a chance, he would not hesitate to tear off a bloody piece of flesh from his enemy. Then, Su Fang continued to absorb the world power, rapidly increasing the world power of the world tree and the world in his body. When the world power had increased to a sufficient level, he would use the ethereal 10,000 laws Tao, the lowest level of Kuan Su's divine realm. Huff Xia Qijuan regulated his breathing, shaking off the shadow of his failed attempt. After countless attempts, Xia Qijuan felt that the energy in his body was already about to break through the limit of peak 9th firmament celestial god. Then, he borrowed the divine might of the formation in Kuan Su's divine realm and released his aura towards the sky. Very soon, the chaos divine tribulation appeared again. This time there were no accidents. Xia Qijuan directly borrowed the divine might of the formation in Kuan Su's divine realm and easily shattered the divine tribulation, breaking through to a higher level in one fell swoop. What difficulty can I, Xia Qijuan, have in breaking through to a mere celestial god realm? Chapter 1850. Xia Qijuan used a supreme ability that only the direct descendants of Kuan Su could master to absorb the pure world energy of Kuan Su's divine realm. Rays of starlight formed from the pure world energy of Kuan Su's divine realm were attracted by Xia Qijuan and gathered around him. Suddenly, the starlight trembled, and Xia Qijuan suddenly lost control of the world energy. The rays of starlight seemed to be attracted by something, and after trembling for a while, they surged out of the formation space. Puff, Xia Qijuan had just broken through, and the true qi and energy in his body were at their weakest. Now that the ability was suddenly interrupted, he immediately suffered a backlash. The world energy that had seeped into his body and divine abode went out of control, and his divine abode shook. His flesh and blood were shattered, and he spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood. Damn it, how could this be? After encountering so many bizarre events, Xia Qijuan was shocked and angry, and he was extremely depressed. The abnormal movement of the world energy of Kuan Su's divine realm was the work of Su Fang. He used the ethereal enlightenment's ability, the ethereal myriad laws Tao, to slowly communicate with the world origin of Kuan Su's divine realm. The myriad worlds could not be compared to the major world. With Su Fang's current cultivation and mastery of the ethereal enlightenment, he could not easily shake the world origin of a major world like he could in the major world. However, communicating with the world origin and then using a mental cultivation method and hand seal, he could easily attract the pure world energy formed by the world origin. Right now, I'm the only one at the lowest level of Kuan Su's divine realm. Apart from me, who else can absorb the purest world energy of the 13th level? Could it be that grandfather personally used this supreme ability? Xia Qijuan couldn't figure it out, so he swallowed a medicinal pill. This was not an ordinary pill, but a high-grade divine essence pill. With his current cultivation, swallowing a high-grade pill was a bit difficult. If he was not careful, he might be injured because he could not control the violent medicinal energy. However, at this moment, Xia Qijuan could not care about anything else. To be injured right after his breakthrough, if he didn't recover in time and stabilize his condition back to normal, it might leave behind hidden dangers in his future cultivation. He planned to swallow the high-grade divine essence pill first, and then absorb the pure power of the world. He would use the power of the world to suppress and refine the pill, and then use the power of the pill to fuse with the power of the world to heal his injuries and stabilize his cultivation base. Xia Qijuan's idea wasn't wrong, but he was really unlucky today. Su Fang used the ethereal Tao of 10,000 laws and was able to communicate with the world origin of Kuan Su's God realm. Combined with his perfect ability, he could clearly sense the movements on the 13th floor. Xia Qijuan, you humiliated me like this. You didn't expect me to take revenge so soon, did you? Seeing that Xia Qijuan was prepared to stake it all on this, Su Fang's eyes flashed with a cold light. He no longer absorbed the pure world energy in the 13th level, allowing Xia Qijuan to absorb world energy to recover and stabilize his cultivation. Law's voice came from the depths of his body. Su Fang, you are getting more and more despicable. If it weren't for my lack of strength, why would I need to use these methods? One day, I will defeat Xia Qijuan fair and square and return the humiliation to him 10 times over. I will let him have a taste of being stepped on under someone's foot, Su Fang said coldly. Xia Qijuan saw that the pure world strength of the 13th floor was no longer acting strangely, so he used his divine ability to slowly absorb the world's strength into his body. At the same time, he no longer sealed the medicinal power in his body and merged it with the world's strength that was continuously absorbed. When Xia Qijuan was surrounded by the rich pure world strength and surrounded by stars, Su Fang once again used the ethereal Tao of 10,000 laws. Boom! Xia Qijuan was like a volcano that was about to erupt and suddenly lost the source of its power. He fell from the peak of eruption into an icy cave. The power of the backlash and the power of the pill that went out of control suddenly exploded in his divine palace and body. Puff puff puff, Xia Qijuan's divine palace shook violently and cracks appeared. His body shattered layer by layer from the inside out. Blood spurted from his mouth, and he fell to the ground, unconscious. Seeing this scene, Su Fang smiled coldly and no longer paid attention to Xia Qijuan. He focused on absorbing the pure world strength of the 13th floor. The world strength of the 13th floor was extracted from the world origin of Kuan Su's divine realm through the formation. It was more than 100 times purer and more abundant than the world strength of other places. Su Fangda absorbed this world strength without restraint, causing the world tree to grow and transform crazily. The world strength was then transformed into the world strength of yin and yang by the yang vein and the world tree. It poured into Su Fang's world, causing the world in his body to transform at an astonishing speed. When Su Fang absorbed the world strength on the path of heaven's end and the path of transformation's supreme God, the domain covered by the power of the world was only 10 feet wide. When he activated the world in his body, the power of the world was roughly the same. At this time, after absorbing the pure world strength of Kuan Su's divine realm, Su Fang's ability to control the world and the world strength in his body were growing crazily. At the top of the giant mountain of Kuan Su's divine realm, the world origin moved strangely. Kuan Su, Xianlingzi, and the yellow-browed old man immediately sensed it. Young Master Xia Qijuan, cultivating in the 13th floor of Kuan Su's divine realm, can cause such a big movement of the world origin. It's incredible! Xianlingzi and the yellow-browed old man were shocked. Kuan Su was also very surprised. Although Xia Qijuan's talent was extraordinary, after all, he was limited by his cultivation. Logically speaking, with his current cultivation realm, absorbing the world's strength was unlikely to cause such a big movement. Except for Xia Qijuan, Kuan Su couldn't think of anyone else who could have such ability. This was Kuan Su's divine realm. Except for a few elites of the Xia family, who mastered the magical power to control the origin of Kuan Su's divine realm. Young Master Xia, at such a young age, can actually have such an amazing ability to absorb the world's strength. His future achievements are limitless. It's not impossible for him to become a Star River Zone Lord in the future. The yellow-browed old man seized the opportunity to flatter. Kuan Su stroked his beard and chuckled. He was very happy in his heart. Xianlingzi thought of his precious grandson, and then looked at Xia Qijuan. He couldn't help but feel a little jealous. But on second thought, that disappointing grandson of his had now integrated with a mid-grade Earth-rank godhead. Although his future achievements were far from Xia Qijuan's, compared to before, it already made him feel very relieved. What more could he ask for? How could Mo Fenghua compare to Xia Qijuan? Wasn't this purely looking for trouble? Comparing people with people would make people angry. Kuan Su nodded and said, Xia Qijuan is worthy of being a disciple of the Xia family. If nothing unexpected happens, he will be qualified to take over Kuan Su's divine realm in the future. When he comes out of Kuan Su's divine realm, let him first become a venerable Tao disciple of Kuan Su's divine sect. Xianlingzi didn't think much of these words, but when the yellow-browed old man heard them, he was moved. In any power, there were cultivators who wholeheartedly cultivated, and there were also people who wanted to curry favor with the rich and powerful. Kuan Su's divine sect was no exception, and this yellow-browed old man was one of them. It was already difficult for the yellow-browed old man to improve in cultivation, so he put his energy into power. Xia Qijuan had been personally appointed as a venerable Tao disciple by Kuan Su. As long as nothing unexpected happened, he would definitely become the supreme ruler of Kuan Su's divine sect. If he didn't curry favor with him now, when would he wait? Therefore, the yellow-browed old man bid farewell to Kuan Su and left the peak of Kuan Su's enormous mountain. He gathered all the elders of Kuan Su's divine sect, including the various sects' venerables and special disciples, at the entrance of Kuan Su's divine realm. What were they doing? respectfully welcoming the venerable Tao disciple out of seclusion. Xia Qijuan was honored as a venerable Tao disciple. When the yellow-browed old man summoned him, other than a few great elders who dared to ignore him, who else dared to disobey? The elders and special disciples of Kuan Su's divine sect all gathered. After Xia Yunji inquired, she also hurried over. As the Xian Ling Dojo's venerable, Xian Lingzi naturally received the yellow-browed old man's sound transmission. His precious grandson had just been publicly humiliated by Xia Qijuan, and he was full of displeasure. At this time, he naturally wouldn't flatter Xia Qijuan. Xia Qijuan had seized Su Fang's qualification to cultivate at the lowest level of Kuan Su's divine realm for 100 years. At this time, it was still early for him to come out of seclusion. However, under the yellow-browed old man's command, the elders waited outside the spatial formation in the cave. The other special disciples sat cross-legged outside the entrance, respectfully waiting for Xia Qijuan to come out. In the formation space of Kuan Su's divine realm's 12th level, Su Fang had absorbed enough pure power of the world to reach a state where he could absorb and refine it. Only then did he stop absorbing the power of the world. Counting the time with his fingers, there was still about 30 years until the 100-year deadline. The earth attribute power of nature here was so dense. Naturally, Su Fang wouldn't waste this opportunity. Thus, he continued to settle down in his cultivation state. Su Fang's original body remained in the formation space, cultivating the thick earth essence condensation technique and the art of driving mountain. This technique was a basic technique for true gods who had just ascended to the true god realm to gather the natural energy of heaven and earth to condense spirit essence. As the basic cultivation technique of Kuan Su's divine sect's disciples, the thick earth essence condensation technique naturally wasn't a powerful technique. It was a common technique that couldn't be more common. The art of driving mountain was the same. It was a low-level ability that even the official disciples of Kuan Su's divine sect wouldn't cultivate. Su Fang had fused with the earth attribute godhead. He could only cultivate earth attribute techniques and abilities. At this time, he didn't have any other techniques or abilities to cultivate. In order not to waste this opportunity, he could only temporarily cultivate the thick earth essence condensation technique and the art of driving mountain. Soon, Su Fang shockingly discovered that the thick earth essence condensation technique and the art of driving mountain were as easy as eating and drinking to him. It was as if they were innate talents. It wasn't because these techniques were too simple, nor was it because of the earth-level mid-grade earth attribute godhead. Instead, it was because the primal grade godhead bestowed him with unparalleled cultivation talent. It made him feel as if he was standing on top of a mountain and looking down below. Any technique or ability was no mystery to him. This discovery made Su Fang very happy. He cultivated the thick earth essence condensation technique and condensed spirit essence in his divine palace. At the same time, he separated himself from the young immortal to comprehend the art of driving mountain. At the same time, Su Fang also started to separate his blood and water clones to cultivate and comprehend the Heaven's secret life shrinking technique, Heaven's divination technique, 9 Yang 9 transformations, ethereal truth and other technique. Unknowingly, Kuan Su's 100 years of cultivation in the God realm were up. Su Fang was sent out of the 12th layer by the formation space's divine might. Chapter 1851. In the cave where the entrance to Kuan Su's God realm was, the yellow-browed elder and over 30 elders of Kuan Su, including Xia Yunji, were looking at Xia Qijuan expectantly. The yellow-browed elder praised sincerely, "Young Master Xia Qijuan's talent is extraordinary. At such a young age, he was able to move the world source of Kuan Su's God realm. In the future, he will definitely be a realm lord. If I offend the leader, young Master Xia may even surpass the leader and become the lord of a great realm." The other elders also began to flatter Xia Qijuan without restraint. They praised Xia Qijuan as an unprecedented peerless genius of the Kuan Su God world. What kind of person is my brother? Only Sanskrit's young master Fan Su can be compared to him. Everyone's praises made Xia Yunji feel a little smug. Outside the cave, over 100 special disciples all stood up and stared at the entrance, hoping to see Xia Qijuan's glory and witness the rise of Kuan Su's future leader. Dongshan Wei also brought a group of playboys outside the cave. This time, not only did they come to welcome Xia Qijuan out of seclusion and show their faces in front of the future leader, they also came for Su Fang. 1. A divine array suddenly emitted a spatial aura and a figure appeared in the array. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Everyone's gazes focused on this figure, but they were all disappointed. Xia Yunji revealed a look of hatred and resentment, as if she had eaten a disgusting fly. The person who came out was none other than Su Fang. Seeing such a large formation in the cave, Su Fang was also shocked. Thinking that something big had happened, he cupped his fists towards the yellow-browed elder and asked, "Great Elder, what happened? Move aside. When young Master Xia comes out of seclusion and sees you, wouldn't it be bad luck?" Peak First Layer True God Realm. The yellow-browed elder waved his hand at Su Fang like he was shooing away a fly. Then, he saw that Su Fang's cultivation had shockingly reached the peak of the first sky of True God Realm. He couldn't help but be shocked. Su Fang had fused with the Godhead, stepped into the True God Realm, and absorbed so much pure spiritual energy and world energy. In addition to the last few years of cultivation, he had unknowingly reached the peak of the first sky of the True God Realm. When he entered Kuan Su's God state, Su Fang was still a mortal at the mortal evolution state. It had only been 100 years, but he not only fused with an Earth-level medium-grade God divinity and reached the true God state, but he also reached the peak of level 1. Although it wasn't considered shocking, it was still very shocking. True God Realm, level 1 peak? Xia Yunji and the other elders were also flabbergasted. In their impression, Mo Fenghua was a complete trash. They didn't expect him to have such a change in a short 100 years. Naturally, they were surprised and shocked. Of course, in the eyes of these experts, a first sky of True God Realm wasn't worth mentioning. It was no different from an ant. They were just shocked for a moment before shifting their attention to the God formation. Xianlingzi seems to have put in a lot of effort for you. The yellow-browed elder smiled faintly. He naturally thought that Su Fang could improve so quickly, all because of the pills or other spiritual items that Xianlingzi gave Su Fang. Thus, he sneered at Su Fang. Peak first sky of True God Realm. His talent is really amazing. He has the right to be killed by young Master Fan Su. Xia Yunji's tone was filled with sarcasm and hatred. The elder in charge of Kuan Su's God state shouted coldly at Su Fang, "Leave this place." At this moment, the space power of the God formation swept out a figure. "Young Master Xia is out," the yellow-browed elder shouted. Everyone's attention was focused on the God formation. Su Fang was very surprised. Although Xia Qijuan's promotion is extraordinary, it's not a big deal. Why is there such a big formation? Xia Qijuan's figure walked out of the God formation. "Congratulations, young Master Xia! Congratulations, young Master Xia!" With the yellow-browed elder as the leader, all the elders shouted together. The special disciples outside the cave also shouted loudly. However, at the next moment, the congratulatory voices in the cave stopped abruptly. Xia Qijuan didn't look as high-spirited as people imagined. On the contrary, his robe was stained with blood. His hair was messy and his face was pale. He looked like he had aged 30 years. Not only was his breath weak, it was also very chaotic. He clearly looked like he was seriously injured. Everyone was stunned and looked at Xia Qijuan in disbelief. Even a blind person could see that Xia Qijuan had a big problem. Su Fang couldn't help but laugh. Xia Qijuan also didn't expect that there would be such a big formation outside. He raised his spirit and revealed his imposing manner. "What are you all doing?" Xia Yunji said. "Brother has been appointed as Kuan Su Divine Sect's Honorable Tao disciple by grandfather. The great elder specially brought many elders and special disciples to congratulate him. Brother seems to be tired. You should go back and rest." This girl was smart. Seeing that Xia Qijuan was in trouble, she quickly helped Xia Qijuan smooth things over. At this time, Su Fang suddenly shouted, "Congratulations, young Master Xia, for coming out of seclusion. Congratulations, young Master Xia, for successfully advancing." Su Fang's voice was full of respect and flattery. However, in Xia Qijuan's ears it was like a thorn, but he couldn't do it. The elders in the cave didn't dare to speak. The special disciples outside didn't know Xia Qijuan's current situation. When they heard Su Fang's congratulatory voice, they all shouted loudly. These special disciples were afraid that Xia Qijuan couldn't hear them. They were also afraid that Xia Qijuan would feel that they weren't respectful enough after hearing them. Therefore, they used their divine might to spread their voices throughout the entire Kuan Su divine realm. Moreover, their voices carried incomparable reverence and flattery. Xia Qijuan felt as if there were 1,000, 10,000 flying swords stabbing his heart back and forth countless times. A surge of blood qi surged up and almost spurted out of his mouth. Xia Qijuan fiercely glared at Su Fang. He forcefully suppressed his blood qi, then took out a brand new Taoist robe and put it on. Regaining his spirit, he strode out. After receiving everyone's congratulations and a few polite words, Xia Qijuan left with Xia Yunji. When he walked out of everyone's sight, Xia Qijuan's vision turned black and he fainted. This time, although he successfully advanced in the lowest level of the divine realm in Kuan Su, he was seriously injured. Not only was he unable to stabilize his condition, he was on the verge of falling back to the divine realm. Without special pills, spiritual items, and a long period of time, Xia Qijuan would find it hard to recover. What was even more serious was that his future cultivation would also be severely affected. This wasn't an injury from a battle, but an injury from a breakthrough. This was an injury to the foundation of his cultivation. This was something that no true god cultivator wanted to see. The elders of the Kuan Su God sect were all cunning old foxes. Naturally, they could tell that their attempt to flatter Xia Qijuan had backfired. None of them were interested in flattering Xia Qijuan. After Xia Qijuan left, they all left the entrance of the Kuan Su God realm at their fastest speed. The other special disciples also followed suit. This time, Xia Qijuan suffered a loss. Consider this a bit of interest. Su Fang sneered in his heart. He was the last to leave the cave. Mo Fenghua. Just as Su Fang walked out, Dong Shanwei brought a dozen hedonistic disciples and surrounded him. "What's the matter?" Su Fang revealed a trembling expression. Dong Shanwei came at the right time. He might as well take care of his matters. Dong Shanwei shouted domineeringly, "Mo Fenghua, why are you pretending to be confused in front of this young master? What happened to the task this young master gave you before entering the Kuan Su divine realm?" Before entering the Kuan Su divine realm, Dong Shanwei gave Su Fang a Dao bottle to collect the essence of the world energy of Kuan Su divine realm's 13th level. Although it was called collecting, it was actually stealing. Don't look at the small Dao bottle. Its capacity wasn't small. If it was filled with the pure world energy of Kuan Su divine realm, it would definitely be a precious treasure that could be sold for a high price. Su Fang angrily said, "Dong Shanwei, you clearly know that my qualification to enter the lower level of the Kuan Su divine realm was taken away by Xia Qijuan. Where would I go to collect the pure world energy of Kuan Su divine realm for you?" Dong Shanwei said domineeringly, "This young master doesn't care about this. Since you didn't complete the task this young master gave you, then compensate this young master with 1,000 mid-grade divine essence pills." In the myriad worlds, 1,000 mid-grade divine essence pills was not a small number. It was practically the entire wealth of a celestial deity realm expert. No matter how much Mo Fenghua was doted on by Xianlingzi, it was impossible for her to take out such a large number of mid-grade divine essence pills all of a sudden. Dongshan Wei was clearly opening his mouth like a lion, wanting to ruthlessly extort a sum. Su Fang couldn't help but gnash his teeth. Dongshan Wei, you're going too far. Aye. What do you want? Could it be that you want to eat this young master? Dongshan Wei mocked, and the other hedonistic young masters also roared with laughter. Dongshan Wei pointed at his lower body and said with a sinister smile, "Fine, this young master will give you a chance. Kneel and lick me. If you make this young master feel good, take out 100 mid-grade divine essence pills, and this matter will be considered over. I'll fight you to the death. I want to challenge you to a life-and-death battle with you." Su Fang was completely enraged and looked like he was going to throw caution to the wind. "You want to have a life-and-death battle with this young master? This young master is at the 7th layer of the true God realm. You've just fused with a divine spark and are only at the 1st layer of the true God realm. You want to challenge this young master?" Dongshan Wei was startled. Then, as if he had heard the funniest joke, he let out a burst of wild laughter. The other hedonistic young masters also laughed, and some laughed until their stomachs hurt. "Accept him." Suddenly, someone transmitted a message to Dongshan Wei. /= it was Mo Yuntian. He was also a special disciple of Kuan Su's divine sect. This time, to welcome Xia Qijuan out of seclusion, he also came here. He originally stayed to see Su Fang be humiliated by Dongshan Wei, but he didn't expect Su Fang to recklessly take the initiative to issue a challenge. Moreover, it was a life-and-death battle. He immediately felt that the opportunity to get rid of Su Fang had come, so he secretly transmitted a message to Dongshan Wei. Dongshan Wei replied, "Although Mo Fenghua is trash, his identity is not ordinary. If I really kill him, I won't be able to deal with Elder Xianling. No need to kill him. Just cripple his divine palace. After this, I'll give you 100 mid-grade divine essence pills. Then it's settled." Dongshan Wei readily agreed. Chapter 1852. Kuan Su's divine sect had 18 dojos. Just the official disciples alone numbered over 30 million. It was inevitable that there would be conflicts between disciples. Kuan Su's divine sect strictly forbade disciples from fighting in private. However, it didn't forbid public duels. Furthermore, there was a life-and-death stage for disciples who had conflicts to duel. Once on the life-and-death stage, life and death were determined by fate. Of course, unless it was an unresolvable blood feud, there wouldn't be deaths on the life-and-death stage. Su Fang and Dongshan Wei arrived at the life-and-death stage. 2 female disciples were currently fighting to the death on the life-and-death stage. Below the stage, over 100 disciples were watching. It turned out that these 2 female disciples were fighting over a male disciple. Thus, in a fit of anger, they entered the life-and-death stage. Once a woman became ruthless, she was 10 times more ferocious than a man. Seeing this, Su Fang was shocked to the core. He warned himself in his heart to avoid provoking women in the future. Of course, women like Xia Yunji were an exception. Dongshan Wei loudly shouted, "Both of you stop. This young master wants to fight to the death with Mo Fenghua." Mo Fenghua? The 2 female disciples were originally in a life-and-death situation. However, after hearing Dongshan Wei's words, they immediately stopped fighting. After cursing at each other, they jumped off the stage. It wasn't that Dongshan Wei's face was big enough, but that the name Mo Fenghua was too hateful. Especially female disciples. No matter if they had lost their undergarments or not, which one of them didn't hate Mo Fenghua, who had bad habits? Since Mo Fenghua wanted to fight to the death with Dongshan Wei, the 2 female disciples immediately stopped. Between them was a personal grudge. However, Mo Fenghua was the public enemy of all female disciples in Kuan Su's divine sect. Naturally, they had to put their personal grudges aside. When the two female disciples got off the stage, they immediately took out rune talismans and spread the news of Mo Fenghua and Dong Shanwei's life and death duel. The disciples below the stage all did the same thing. This scene made Dong Shanwei and the other hedonistic young masters laugh. Su Fang, on the other hand, was very depressed. Mo Fenghua was truly pitiful to be in such a state. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Disciples came one after another. They xickly surrounded the life and death stage. Most of them were ordinary disciples, but there were also some core disciples and special disciples. Xia Yunji also came to the life and death arena. Su Fang scolded her in public and directly divorced her. She wanted to see Su Fang die with her own eyes. Only then could she quell the hatred in her heart. In addition, Xia Qijuan's matter had caused Xia Yunji to have some suspicions. What Xia Qijuan encountered in Kuan Su's God's realm was too bizarre, and Su Fang happened to be in the 12th layer of the formation space. Moreover, Xia Yunji, with her woman's intuition, felt that Mo Fenghua was not the same as before, so she hoped to find some clues through the duel between Su Fang and Dong Shanwei. Su Fang and Dong Shanwei stepped onto the life and death platform. In front of the law enforcement disciples of the punishment hall, the two of them were about to sign the life and death duel contract. At this moment, Uncle Chong hurried over. "Young master, you mustn't." Then, Ling Xiang's cold voice was heard. "Brat, are you courting death?" Before his voice even fell, demonic energy swept out, and a charming Ling Xiangmei appeared on the life and death platform. "You brat, just advanced to the true God realm, and you're starting to get cocky, is it? You actually dare to challenge a 7th firmament true God?" Ling Xiangmei saw that Su Fang's cultivation had actually reached the peak of the 1st firmament true God realm. She couldn't help but be surprised and then felt gratified. However, being surprised was one thing. Ling Xiangmei didn't think that Su Fang had the strength to challenge Dong Shanwei. She said coldly to Dong Shanwei, "You bastard, in the past, you often bullied my family's Fenghua. This seat didn't want to bother with you, but this time, you actually provoked him onto the life and death platform. If you want his life, this seat will peel off a layer of your skin." Ling Xiangmei was an elder expert of the heaven-surpassing deity realm, and she was also a demon god. Under her deterrence, Dong Shanwei swayed, unable to stand. The berserk demonic energy nearly scared him to the point of peeing his pants. A figure jumped onto the life and death platform and waved his hand, releasing an aura that shattered the shackles on Dong Shanwei's body. He coldly shouted, "Ling Xiangmei, you coquettish fox, you're too shameless. A dignified elder actually dares to bully a junior." This was a middle-aged man with an illusory aura. His appearance was very similar to Dong Shanwei. He was Dong Shanwei's father, an elder expert of the Kuan Su divine sect. Although Ling Xiangmei's identity was extraordinary, she was still a demon god. Therefore, her position in the Kuan Su divine sect was one level lower than the other elders. The Dongshan clan was a large clan of the Kuan Su divine sect. They controlled the Dongshan dojo, which was one of the top 3 dojos in the Kuan Su divine sect. Moreover, one of their grand elders came from the Dongshan clan. Therefore, Dong Shanwei didn't put Ling Xiangmei in his eyes and spoke rudely. "Dong Shanwei, could it be that you want to have a life and death duel with this seat?" Ling Xiangmei burst out with monstrous demonic energy and was about to fight Dong Shanwei. Dong Shanwei didn't show any weakness. A majestic aura rose like a mountain. At this moment, Su Fang suddenly sent a message to Ling Xiangmei, "Aunt Mei, don't worry. I have confidence in defeating Dong Shanwei." "You have confidence in defeating Dong Shanwei?" Ling Xiangmei was shocked and stunned. "Aunt Mei, I'm not stupid. I almost died in the cloudy divine world. I cherish my life very much. If I didn't have confidence, why would I take the initiative to throw my life away? Aunt Mei, believe me this time." "Kid, I'll believe you this time." Ling Xiangmei was skeptical. After thinking for a while, she jumped off the life and death stage. If Su Fang's life was in danger, it wouldn't be too late to save him. Dong Shanwei also jumped off the life and death stage and shouted at Dong Shanwei, "Don't worry. Father will support you. Let's see which coquettish fox dares to touch a hair on your head." Ling Xiangmei was furious and sent a message to Su Fang, "Beat up that Dongshan clan kid for this old lady. It's fine as long as you don't kill him. As long as you defeat this kid, this old lady will give you a used undergarment." Cough cough cough. Su Fang was using his primordial spirit to imprint the life and death document. When he heard Ling Xiangmei's words, he immediately coughed and staggered. This Ling Xiangmei simply wouldn't stop until she shocked him to death. Both sides signed the life and death document. The law enforcement disciple of the punishment hall said loudly, "Although both of you have signed the life and death document, when fighting, both sides must stop. After all, it involves Elder Xian Ling and Dong Shanwei Great Elder. It'll be hard to explain if either of them is injured." Dong Shanwei shouted coldly, "Cut the crap. Since you've signed the life and death document, then life and death is irrelevant. This is a life and death battle between this young master and this trash. I don't need you to tell me what to do." Cram. Although this law enforcement disciple held a position in the punishment hall and was awe-inspiring in front of ordinary disciples, he didn't dare to offend Dong Shanwei. After being scolded by Dong Shanwei in public, he didn't dare to say anything and directly jumped off the life and death stage. Dong Shanwei pointed at Su Fang and grinned, "Trash, this young master will beat you until you kneel and lick." Just as Dong Shanwei was speaking, Su Fang suddenly formed a seal. In terms of cultivation, Su Fang was far inferior to Dong Shanwei. However, in terms of experience, compared to Su Fang, a cultivator who ascended from a great world, Dong Shanwei was no different from a rookie. In a life and death battle, he still had to talk nonsense when facing the enemy. He was simply courting death. Shameless, this is a sneak attack. I didn't expect that trash Mo Fenghua to be so despicable. He even stole the undergarments of female disciples. What other despicable things can't he do? The disciples below the stage all shouted angrily, reprimanding Su Fang for his sneak attack. Ling Xiangmei was startled and immediately revealed a smile. "This kid isn't too stupid. Not bad, I like it." Mountain driving art? Mo Fenghua actually used trash like the mountain driving art to fight a life and death battle with Dong Shanwei? Even if he shamelessly launched a sneak attack, how can he do anything to Dong Shanwei? The disciples below the stage could tell at a glance that Su Fang's technique was a common technique like the mountain taming art. They all burst into laughter. But Ling Xiangmei's eyes lit up, her deep pupils revealing a look of pleasant surprise. Su Fang had just fused with a divine spark and advanced to true God realm. When had he cultivated any divine ability? From when he fused with a divine spark and advanced to true God until now, it had only been several decades. Being able to grasp the mountain driving art was already rather not easy. Su Fang's hand seals looked extremely simple, but the speed was unbelievably fast, completing in the time it took for sparks to fly off a flint. Furthermore, the seal-forming technique was incomparably adept, giving people a feeling of moving clouds and flowing water. If it were those ordinary disciples who cultivated this divine ability for tens of thousands of years, being able to reach Su Fang's current height was also not something rare. But Su Fang had only cultivated for several decades at most. Such cultivation talent, how could Ling Xiangmei not be surprised? The earth attribute heaven and earth natural spiritual energy in the surrounding space rapidly converged towards Su Fang, condensing into the phantom of an enormous mountain peak. Then, Su Fang smashed out with a punch, akin to a large mountain smashing out ruthlessly. Dong Shanwei's incomparably arrogant words had just been spoken halfway when Su Fang's attack came crushing over. Caught off guard, how could he have time to use his divine ability? In a hurry, Dongshan Wei opened his mouth and spat out a small green mountain, which quickly transformed into a 3-meter-tall hill in front of him. This was a low-grade divine artifact. With Dongshan Wei's cultivation base, if he was given enough time to activate it, he could barely activate nearly half of its power. Su Fang's attack was too sudden, and the speed at which he used his divine ability was too fast, so much so that Dongshan Wei was only able to activate one level of the divine artifact's power. Boom! 9 true 9 yang. The 30-meter-tall hill collided with Su Fang's divine ability. It was like a mountain crushing a small hill, immediately sending Dongshan Wei's divine artifact flying. With a series of rumbling sounds, it rapidly shrank, turning into a streak of azure light that flew back into Dongshan Wei's body. Dongshan Wei had fused with the divine artifact, and at this time, the divine artifact was shaken back to its original form. His primordial spirit and blood qi were also impacted, causing him to feel dizzy. His blood qi also surged, and he could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. The mountain driving art, a common item, could actually burst out with such extraordinary power, giving people a strong visual impact. The audience was immediately silent. Even Dongshan Luan's eyes revealed a dignified expression, and he loudly warned Dongshan Wei, "Don't underestimate the enemy, he is not simple." "Trash, are you planning to use trash like the mountain driving art to humiliate this young master? This young master will make you wish you were dead." Dongshan Mountain Divine Seal. Chapter 1853. The Earth Tao Law was thick and vast. It could bear all things, and at the same time, it could suppress and seal all things. Suppressing and sealing was one of the Earth Tao laws. Dongshan Wei's divine ability was called Dongshan Mountain Divine Seal. It was the Dongshan clan's supreme inherited divine ability. It used hand seals to trigger the Earth Tao law to suppress and seal the enemy. Its power was incomparably powerful. It was said that when this divine ability's power was used to the extreme, it could seal an entire divine realm. What a powerful divine ability! Su Fang also sensed the terror of Dongshan Wei's attack. His eyes were solemn. He didn't dare to be careless and quickly formed hand seals. Ling Xiangmei, who was ready to save Dongshan Wei, was also about to break Dongshan Wei's divine ability. Who knew that Dongshan Luan would flash in front of Ling Xiangmei and block her. A majestic aura sealed her. Ling Xiangmei was furious. Dongshan Luan, scram. Dongshan Luan smiled proudly. Mo Fenghua isn't your son. Why are you so worried about him? If you interfere in a battle between juniors, I won't stand by and watch. Young master, be careful. Chong Bo jumped and punched the array around the life and death stage. In order to prevent the disciples from accidentally injuring the people below the stage, the array around the life and death stage was very sturdy. It wasn't hard for a powerhouse like Ling Xiangmei to break the array. However, Chong Bo, a celestial deity, was helpless. His full-strength attack only shook the array. Scram! Dongshan Luan waved his sleeve and sent Chong Bo flying with a majestic aura. Chong Bo's sternum was shattered and his internal organs were injured. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He clenched his teeth and wanted to go up the stage. Xia Yunji blocked him and said coldly, "Is a battle between masters something a slave like you can interfere with? If you dare to act rashly again, I'll kill you." Mo Yuntian, who was hiding in the crowd, looked at the stage and smiled sinisterly. "This time, let's see how you escape the fate of being suppressed." The many Koan Su Divine sect disciples below the stage all cheered loudly. Especially the female disciples, they were all very excited. Dongshan Wei's divine ability also burst out at this moment. With his current level of cultivation, using the Dongshan clan's unparalleled abhijna was clearly a bit difficult. Just one powerful attack had already pushed his divine yuan and dermic powers to the limits of what he could bear. His face was pale, and his entire body trembled. However, the might of this attack was incomparably shocking. A terrifying aura that seemed capable of suppressing heaven and earth enveloped Su Fang, and it was about to shackle and suppress Su Fang. Boom! Su Fang urged the mountain-controlling art. A mountain phantom had just condensed beside him when it collapsed under the divine ability released by Dongshan Wei. It only managed to stop the sealing power for a moment. Su Fang's body trembled, but the seal in his hand did not stop at all. In an instant, 2 illusory mountain peaks were condensed again. After being crushed into pieces again, Su Fang made hand seals again and again. Earth element natural spiritual energy quickly condensed into 3 illusory mountain peaks from the life and death arena under his feet and the surroundings. Just like that, they shattered again and again. Su Fang made hand seals again and again. In the end, 9 illusory mountain peaks were condensed. They overlapped and formed a mountain range, condensing 9 illusory mountain peaks. This is the manifestation of cultivating the mountain-controlling art to the extreme. When did Mo Fenghua cultivate the mountain-controlling art? He actually cultivated it to such a level? Impossible. How can a cultivator who just ascended to the true immortal realm cultivate the mountain-controlling art to the extreme? There was an uproar below the stage. The mountain-controlling art was the most common divine ability of the Kuan Su divine sect disciples. It was said that when cultivated to the extreme, one could control the power of mountains and condense 9 illusory mountain peaks. In other words, one possessed the power of 9 mountains. Using the art of mountain rider to the extreme would naturally result in an extraordinary power. However, other than those cultivators of lowly birth and extremely poor talent, who would be so free as to constantly cultivate a low-level technique like the art of mountain rider and cultivate it to the extreme. And yet, Mo Fenghua, a piece of trash who had just ascended to the true immortal realm, was displaying the extreme of the mountain-controlling art in front of everyone. One could imagine the shock it caused. Dongshan Wei's Dongshan Town Divine Seal was eroded layer by the mountain peaks condensed by Su Fang's mountain-controlling art. In the end, it collapsed and turned into nothingness. It's broken. Mo Fenghua actually used trash like the mountain-controlling art to break the Dongshan Town Divine Seal of the Dongshan family. Everyone below the stage was shocked. Their minds were filled with the words impossible. The pressure on Su Fang instantly vanished without a trace, and he staggered. His face became as pale as a sheet, and his entire body trembled. Using the mountain driving technique in succession had similarly caused his spirit energy and magic power to reach the brink of exhaustion. In terms of true strength, Su Fang had too many divine abilities that could defeat Dongshan Wei or even kill him instantly. However, what Su Fang could use right now could only be Kuan Su's divine sect's divine ability. Otherwise, if others saw through the slightest clue, they might suspect his identity and bring about a great disaster. Su Fang had no other choice. The only divine ability he could use was the mountain-controlling art. That was why he was in such a sorry state. He possessed a primal chaos divine spark. His comprehension and mastery of the mountain-controlling art, the lowest level of earth attribute divine ability, was like reading a book on his palm. Using a few decades to cultivate the mountain-controlling art to the extreme was not a difficult matter. However, compared to his trash identity, it was truly a bit shocking. Under the gazes of the crowd, Su Fang walked towards Dongshan Wei step by step. Trash, you can actually resolve this young master's supreme divine ability. How is that possible? Only now did Dongshan Wei start to panic. He hurriedly swallowed a medicinal pill that could rapidly recover his divine yuan. Only then did his heart calm down a bit. Trash, both you and this young master have exhausted our divine yuan. How about this duel be considered a draw? Although Dongshan Wei was arrogant, he was not a fool. He thought of ways to stall for time and use medicinal pills to recover his divine yuan. You can't duel just because your divine yuan is exhausted? Su Fang went from a small world to a large world. He had experienced countless fierce battles on the path of cultivation. How could he not see through Dongshan Wei's little trick? Smiling coldly, Su Fang directly pounced at Dongshan Wei with his physical strength. This young master's cultivation is far higher than yours. Could it be that I'm afraid of you, a first firmament true god, in a competition of divine bodies? Fusing with a divine spark, condensing a divine body and yang spirit, and then advancing to the true god realm. This was common knowledge that all the deities in the universe knew. How could Dongshan Wei have thought that Su Fang was an anomaly? Not only was he an ascender from the lower realm, but he had also condensed a divine body from a great perfection physical body when he was in a large world. At this time, his divine body had already surpassed the true God realm and reached the height of the celestial God realm. Competing with Su Fang in terms of divine body was like an egg hitting a rock. Boom, boom, boom. What happened next could no longer be called a duel. It was a crushing, a ravaging. Su Fang didn't use any divine ability. He used his physical strength to fiercely attack. Every punch landed solidly on Dongshan Wei's body. Dongshan Wei's body shattered and then rapidly recovered. Then, the nightmare from before repeated itself. His body shattered and then recovered again. This scene caused the audience to fall into a deathly silence. Apart from the muffled sounds of Dongshan Wei's body being violently attacked and the sound of his flesh and bones shattering, no other sound could be heard. Of course, there was also Dongshan Wei's miserable scream. The disciples below the stage trembled with fear. They never thought that this good-for-nothing trash actually had such a ruthless side. Mo Fenghua's previous image of an idiot and trash in everyone's minds collapsed with a loud bang. It was completely overturned. Xia Yunji looked at Su Fang on the stage with fear in her eyes. It was difficult for her to associate him with the idiot young master in her mind, but she couldn't see any clues from Su Fang's body. Mo Yuntian was even more incredulous. He felt a huge threat in his heart. Only now did he realize that Su Fang didn't seem to be talking nonsense when he said he wanted to use him as a stepping stone. I admit defeat, I admit defeat. Dongshan Wei had never been so ravaged in his life. His will completely collapsed, and he began to loudly beg for mercy. Have you forgotten? This is a duel of life and death. It won't stop until one of us dies. It's useless even if you kneel and lick my feet now. Su Fang said coldly, but he didn't show any mercy. He punched Dongshan Wei's face again, and with a crack, his nose shattered. Mo Fenghua, don't go too far. Dongshan Wei shouted angrily. When you humiliated me, I also said the same thing. But the way you answered me was like this. Su Fang punched Dongshan Wei's mouth again. All of his teeth fell out and he couldn't speak anymore. Stop. Seeing his son suffer such humiliation, Dongshan Luan couldn't hold back any longer and rushed towards the life and death arena. Dongshan Luan, you're interfering in the matters of the younger generation. Don't you feel too shameless? Fenghua, beat him up for me. If you beat him to death, I'll take responsibility for you. Ling Xiangmei was also someone who wanted to see the world plunged into chaos. She chuckled happily, and then her demonic qi exploded, turning into a burning demonic flame that swept towards Dongshan Luan. The two elder-level powerhouses began to fight below the stage, scaring the spectators away for fear of being affected and suffering an unexpected calamity. Boom! Su Fang kicked Dongshan Wei to the ground, then raised his foot and stomped on Dongshan Wei's abdomen. His eyes flashed with ruthless and fierce killing intent as he said coldly, Dongshan Wei, I'm going to destroy your cultivation path. Dongshan Luan turned pale with fright and shouted coldly, Mo Fenghua, you dare! Mo Fenghua, stop! The head elder of punishments shot through the air and yelled at Su Fang coldly. It turned out that it was the enforcement disciple of the disciplinary hall. Seeing that things had gotten out of hand, he immediately used a talisman to report to the upper echelons of the disciplinary hall, alarming the head elder of punishments. Seeing Dongshan Wei being stomped under Su Fang's foot like a dead dog, the head elder of punishment's face was filled with disbelief. Dongshan Luan stopped his battle with Ling Xiangmei and yelled at the head elder of punishments, "Mo Fenghua dares to commit a crime in public. If the disciplinary hall doesn't enforce the law impartially, the Dongshan clan will definitely not tolerate it." The head elder of punishments raised his eyebrows and said to Su Fang in a deep voice, "Mo Fenghua, I still haven't settled the matter before. Why are you causing trouble again?" Chapter 1854. Punishment Head Elder said, "Let Dongshan Wei go for now. If he violates the divine sex laws, I will naturally punish him accordingly. Greater than or equal to 8, greater than or equal to 8, greater than or equal to reading, greater than or equal to books, square root?" Oh, Su Fang had the intention of letting Dongshan Wei go. He took out a Dao bottle from his profound jade ring. "Dongshan Wei is insane. He forced me to steal Kuan Su's God Realm's purest world energy, or else he'll break my neck." Punishment Head Elder's face immediately darkened. He said coldly to Dongshan Wei, "What guts, even daring to have ideas about Kuan Su's God Realm. Elder Dongshan, you've raised a good son." Kuan Su's God Realm was the holy land for the upper echelons and special disciples of Kuan Su's divine sect. The 13th level's purest world energy was extremely precious. Stealing it was a serious offense against the divine sect's laws. Punishment Hall could directly cripple his divine palace and expel him from the divine sect. Su Fang then said righteously, "Although I, Mo Fenghua, act absurdly, I still know the severity of things. Even if you beat me to death, I wouldn't do anything that would endanger the divine sect. Thus, I would rather die than comply." I had no choice but to challenge Dongshan Wei to a life and death duel. Everyone below snorted in disdain. Mo Fenghua even dared to steal the underwear of female disciples. Although Punishment Hall had cleared him of playing with over 100 female disciples, no one believed his innocence. Who would believe that such a bastard would challenge Dongshan Wei to a life and death duel to protect the divine sect's interests? Su Fang continued, "Punishment Head Elder, I've done a good deed for the sect. How can that be considered messing around?" Punishment Head Elder said, "That's right. You've done a good deed this time. I'll reward you with 1,000 low-grade God Essence pills. As for Dongshan Wei, I'll punish him according to the law. Let him go." Su Fang showed an embarrassed expression. This is a life and death duel between Dongshan Wei and I. Punishment Hall shouldn't interfere, right? It's not impossible to let him go, but the Dongshan clan has to pay for his life." The great elder of punishment was startled. Soon after, he said indifferently, "Since it is a life and death battle, I will naturally not interfere. However, it is best if no one dies." Dongshan Luan shouted coldly, "Mo Fenghua, you dare blackmail my Dongshan clan? It seems that Dongshan Wei's life is not worth much in the eyes of the East Mountain Elder." Su Fang smiled helplessly and exerted force with the tip of his foot, causing Dongshan Wei to spit out blood with his internal organs. Dongshan Luan was so angry that his face turned green. "I'll give you 100 low-grade Shin Yuan Dan and immediately release Dongshan Wei." Dongshan Wei's life is only worth 100 low-grade divine essence pills? Or does the East Mountain Elder take me for a fool? Su Fang exerted his strength again, and Dongshan Wei screamed like a pig being slaughtered, "Father, save me! Here are 10,000 divine jade treasures, enough to buy 10,000 low-grade pills. Release him." Dongshan Luan knew that he had to bleed a bit. He clenched his teeth and took out a storage ring, flying towards Ling Xiangmei. "I didn't expect your life to be so valuable. Come find me more in the future," Su Fang said to Dongshan Wei with a chuckle. Dongshan Wei was so angry that his head tilted and he immediately fainted. Su Fang walked to the side of the stage and swept his eyes over Xia Yunji and Mo Yuntian, smiling lightly. This time, Dongshan Wei was just the beginning. One day, Xia Yunji, Mo Yuntian, Xia Qijuan, and Fan Su would all be dealt with. Accompanied by Ling Xiangmei and Uncle Chong, Su Fang left in embarrassment. Xian Lingzi's grandson, everyone thought he was a good-for-nothing. I didn't expect him to be such a powerful character. However, this lord's divine jade isn't that easy to take. This lord will make you spit it out 10 times over. Dongshan Luan coldly snorted and left the life and death stage with the unconscious Dongshan Wei. The crowd below the stage discussed spiritedly. When they discussed Mo Fenghua's name, they no longer called him good-for-nothing and good-for-nothing, but with fear. The matter of the life and death stage quickly spread throughout Kuan Su's divine sect. Everyone who knew of Mo Fenghua was not surprised. However, the famous special disciples all laughed it off, treating the battle between Su Fang and Dongshan Wei as a child's play. When Su Fang returned to Xian Lingzi's dojo, he was immediately called over by Xian Lingzi. After carefully asking, Xian Lingzi's dignified face blossomed into a brilliant smile. Tens of thousands of years of laughter was released at this moment, and his laughter never stopped. How could Xian Lingzi not be happy? The son he had high hopes for had unfortunately died, leaving behind Mo Fenghua as his only child. Who knew that he would be a good-for-nothing, causing him to worry about him all these years? Who knew a good-for-nothing, who didn't hold any hope, had actually fused with more than 90% of a middle-grade Earth-rank divine spark. Furthermore, in a mere few decades after fusing with the divine spark, he had advanced to the peak of the first layer of true God. What was especially shocking was that he had actually cultivated the mountain driving art, a low-grade divine ability, to the extreme, and defeated Dongshan Wei, who was several levels higher than him. With such talent, what was he if not a genius? At least in Xian Lingzi's heart, his grandson was already Kuan Su's divine sect's #1 genius, and was far from being comparable to Xia Qijuan. What made Xian Lingzi most pleasantly surprised was the scheming and ruthless methods he displayed in the life and death duel with Dongshan Wei. In the divine realm, there were many geniuses with outstanding talent. However, those who could become true peerless experts were few and far between. Why was that? To become an expert, outstanding geniuses with outstanding talent often attracted the jealousy of others. If they didn't have outstanding scheming and ruthless methods, they would die much faster than those mediocre people. Xian Lingzi could still protect his grandson now, but he couldn't protect him for a lifetime. How could he not be comforted by Su Fang's performance this time? Fenghua, it's a pity that you woke up a bit late. If you could have this performance 10,000 years ago, you might have had the opportunity to represent Kuan Su's divine realm and participate in the Kimiko Hoshino tournament. Sigh, what a pity. Xian Lingzi looked very regretful. Su Fang asked in astonishment, Kimiko Hoshino, what's that? You actually don't know about Kimiko Hoshino? That's right, you were muddle-headed before, so you naturally wouldn't care about these things. Although you have no hope of participating in the Kimiko Hoshino tournament, I'll still tell you about it. Xian Lingzi spoke tirelessly to Su Fang. Kuan Su's divine realm was just a small world that belonged to a large world called Star Billow Divine Realm. The great world of the myriad worlds was either a large plane or an innumerable number of small planes. The divine world that surrounded the large planes was so vast that it was far beyond Su Fang's imagination. Among the small worlds that belonged to the Star Billow Divine Realm, there were more than 1,000 forces like Kuan Su's divine realm. One could imagine how vast the Star Billow Divine Realm was and how powerful its forces were. More than 10,000 years ago, for some unknown reason, the Star Billow Divine Realm suddenly announced that they would hold the Kimiko Hoshino tournament 100,000 years later. They would select geniuses from all the small worlds under their command, and any gods whose lifespan was less than 10 million years could participate. Moreover, the Star Billow Divine Realm's conditions were incomparably attractive. Any genius who entered the top 10,000 would be heavily rewarded. The rewards were so generous that even experts like Xian Lingzi were jealous. If one entered the top 100, the rewards were even more astonishing. Moreover, one would directly become a special disciple of the star below divine realm, whose status was comparable to the realm master of a small world. Not only that, the top 100 geniuses of the Kimiko Hoshino tournament would also be recommended to participate in the entire star field's genius selection competition and have the opportunity to become famous in the star field. How many geniuses were there in the star field where the star below divine realm was located? Gods from small worlds didn't even dare to think about it, but it was extremely possible to become a special disciple of the star below divine realm. This kind of opportunity to soar into the sky, any god who met the conditions would naturally scramble like a flock of ducks. However, the star below divine realm only gave Kuan Su's divine realm 100 spots to participate. The geniuses who qualified to participate in the Kimiko Hoshino were naturally very few. Even those famous special disciples might not have the opportunity to participate. Su Fang, a god who had just ascended to the true god realm, naturally didn't have the qualifications to participate. When Xian Lingzi told Su Fang about this matter, he originally planned to motivate him. Of course, he didn't expect Su Fang to participate in the Kimiko Hoshino tournament. However, Su Fang had an idea and his heart thumped loudly. Opportunity! This is my chance to quickly rise from the divine realm. If I can enter the top 100 in the Kimiko Hoshino tournament, what would Xia Yunji, Xia Qijuan, and that Fan Su amount to? If I can become famous in the star field, even Shenjia Tianjun will find it difficult to do anything to me. The divine realm is really too big and I'm too weak right now. Now that I've changed my appearance and am living under someone else's roof, I don't even have the ability to walk out of Kuan Su's divine realm. Only by taking advantage of this opportunity can I continue to improve my strength and have a chance to find Xuanxin, Sister Bai, and the second primordial spirit. There are still nearly 90,000 years until the Kimiko Hoshino tournament. I can definitely catch up and get a place in Kuan Su's divine sect. I should be very confident in rushing into the top 100 in the tournament. Su Fang made up his mind, and his eyes flashed with yearning and expectation. Xian Lingzi saw Su Fang's eyes and knew what he was thinking. He smiled helplessly, but didn't say anything so as not to hurt Su Fang. Xian Lingzi took out a jade slip. There's no need to continue cultivating the earth condensation technique and the mountain driving technique. Inside this is one of the techniques that Grandpa cultivates, as well as the mantras and hand seals of the two divine abilities. In Kuan Su's divine sect, they can be considered top techniques and divine abilities. Take them and cultivate. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to ask me. The techniques and divine abilities that Xian Lingzi praised so highly were naturally extraordinary. Of course, they couldn't compare to the 9 Yang 9 changes, the divine life shrinking technique, or even Shu Yunkong's great Tao of time. However, Su Fang couldn't expose himself at this time. He had to master the techniques and divine abilities of the Earth Tao. Now that he had obtained Xian Lingzi's powerful techniques, he was naturally overjoyed.